I guess I need to pull my.
I know. All right, welcome back, everyone. It's 1 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and resume our budget workshop. Kicking us off is going to be Charlotte for tourism.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Charlotte Byerly, Director of Tourism and Venues for St. Lucie County. Before I jump into the presentation, I wanted to share a little some information about a study that was done. Actually, Flynn told me about this because prior to presenting now, I was going to be right before lunch. And there was a study done several years ago by that measured the attitude of judges when they were granting parole to prisoners. And it said that right after eating, judges were more likely to grant parole time, you know, like 60 to 65%.
It's been denied.
But if it was right before break, it was like nearly 0% just before lunch. So I'm happy. I'm presenting right after lunch. So hopefully,
I would say don't trust
hopefully
Flynn.
things go well. That being said, I wanted to share that I've been serving St. Lucie County residents for almost 18 years. On a personal note, I'm a fourth-generation Floridian, third-generation Treasure Coast resident. So seeing this community thrive and sharing our beauty and experiences with visitors from around the world is really in my DNA. So, but I couldn't do this without the small but mighty and efficient and every inch staff of the 6 or 7 FTEs that we have in tourism and venues. So tourism and venues our department is 2 distinctly different operations. Tourism is primarily the marketing operation with a mission to attract visitors to St. Lucie County that bring positive economic impact, whereas the fairgrounds is primarily a county-owned venue operation with staff that performs building and grounds maintenance and event management, but also can bring positive economic impact to the county, along with some great community benefits, which I'll touch on. So starting with tourism, as you probably know, the tourism operation is 100% funded by the 5% tourist development tax. It is paid for by visitors, not paid by residents, not paid by local property taxes. And those funds, those taxes are levied on overnight accommodations rented for 6 months or less. Also, like I said, also known as the tourist development tax. Tourism is an economic driver for St. Lucie County, and it actually can help offset local budget expenses. And I'm going to touch on that later. And as you well know, tourism is the state's #1 economic driver. So it's very important on a state level and on a local level. My team and I often go out and try to speak to the community about the benefits of tourism as residents. And I always typically start the presentation apologizing first to the realtors in the house to say, we're in the business of promoting visitation, not relocation. So don't ask me for our marketing materials so you can sell more homes. We're here to attract visitors, to spend all of their money, hopefully, and then go back home happy. So that's really our goal for tourism. As I indicated, we support the local economic growth and sustainability of our community. We drive economic impact. We promote all the beautiful things our area has to offer as residents to our visitors, activities, attractions, the natural resources. And we hope they go back with a positive image of St. Lucie County and a positive perception of the local community. And when they're here and when they're spending money, it allows St. Lucie County residents to not have to pay as much in local taxes to maintain the programs and services that the state provides and the local government provides. And I have a slide later on that'll kind of help quantify that for you. But just for the purposes of the public that are listening, tourist development tax pays for Clover Park operations, all the maintenance and bonds associated with that. There are no local property taxes used for Clover Park. Historically, in the last several years, it's paid for a lot of improvements to our airport. The tourist taxes contributed to some of the improvements being made at the airport, the terminal renovation, the parking lot, several components getting ready, hopefully, to bring commercial service here. It's paid for local sports facilities and attractions. We've helped expand the Navy SEAL Museum through a grant. It's paid for ball fields, and the list goes on. And of course, it pays for our operation, which is the tourism marketing promotion. And it also funds tourism sports marketing, which brings all those travel ball tournaments to the area, creating that economic impact utilizing our facilities. Just so you know, it is estimated that visitors pay approximately 20% of the sales tax collected in the county, which helps fund infrastructure, water quality projects, and sidewalks, as Patrick touched on earlier. So how much is that impact for tourism? This was a study done back in 2023, so this data is a little dated, but the total economic impact of tourism in St. Lucie County is over $1 billion in 2023. Visitors spent over $700 million. $700 million. I suspect that that number is higher today because our rates have increased in terms of overnight accommodations, as well as costs for entertainment and food and all those things that add to visitor spending. We welcomed over 1 million visitors, and it supports over 8,500 jobs. And again, we've added some hotels, we've added new restaurants and all these hospitality and tourism related businesses, so I suspect that the jobs have increased since then as well. All right, so this is a really important slide that I like to share with residents and of course with you today. Visitors in 2023 generated a net tax benefit of over $9 million to St. Lucie County government. If you took that tax revenue that's generated by visitors minus the cost for St. Lucie County government to service visitors, it saves local residents over $400 per household in taxes every year. So we want visitors to come and spend money. Now, I'm not advocating or pushing an influx of a lot of visitors. That's not what our residents want. We want a healthy balance of visitor spending to help have a healthy balance of our economy. We never want to be over tourism, which is a term in our industry. So moving on to fairgrounds. Tourism and fairgrounds merged about a year ago. And just a quick overview of fairgrounds. It's 208 acres. It's maintained by 2 maintenance staff and 2 administrative staff. There's 20 buildings. There's 104 RV sites, which are open to the public year-round, with the exception of the fair, and 98 toilets out at the fairgrounds. Yes, there are 98 toilets. The ultimate goal for, at least that we've set as a department, is to generate enough annual rental revenue at the fairgrounds to cover the annual expenses and eventually cover fairgrounds personnel costs, making it a self-sufficient operation. That's the goal we've set internally as a department. As you well know, the fairgrounds can also bring, it's got synergy with tourism. It brings visitors to the area and has that positive economic impact to our community. But aside from that, the fairgrounds can host cultural and recreational events that are good for residents and visitors. I'm not going to go through every bullet listed here, but you can see what these benefits are to our community as well as to the county economic impact. It's important to note that there's educational benefits out at the fairgrounds, whether it's demonstrations, livestock competitions, which we do have a lot of, the 4-H programs that take place out there, and then social and community engagement, a lot by our visitors and residents. But importantly is the emergency and civic use that the fairgrounds serves. We host a lot of public safety training out there, whether it's our local sheriff's office or other law enforcement agencies from outside the area using our immense green space areas to do training. So it's great space for emergency drills and safety workshops. It's also a disaster relief hub. We have an agreement with FPL, where this fairgrounds serves as a staging area during disasters. And it's also served as a distribution point for supplies during emergencies. That wraps up my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Charlotte. Questions, comments from the board? No? Excellent. Thank you for all that you guys do. Keep bringing people here and sending them back home.
That's our goal.
Leave their.
I promise they come here realize how great it is.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
So, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Commissioners and Administration, Adolfo Cavelli, St. Lucie County Transit Director. With me is Ms. Tracy John, St. Lucie County's Transit Operations Manager. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak about our transit system. Every community depends on people being able to connect to the places that allow them to live healthy, productive, and independent lives. For thousands of St. Lucie County residents, that connection isn't guaranteed. That's where St. Lucie County Transit comes in, connecting residents to the services and opportunities they depend on every day. Behind every trip is someone whose quality of life is improved because they can get where they need to go. On this slide, you will see a breakdown of the trips provided for each service over the last year. All services on this slide, which are made up of county services and partnerships with other agencies, accounted for almost 1 million trips last year. That equates to over 18,000 trips every single week of the year. These trips provide connectivity for our residents to get to important and life-sustaining appointments. Some of those life-sustaining trips I'm speaking about are the dialysis trips, the Alzheimer's trips, the trips to get to and from work and school and to doctor's appointments. Our residents rely on this service. To give you an idea on one of those services, last year we performed over 15,000 dialysis trips made up of after hours and normal business hours. 15,000 trips to dialysis centers for our residents that do not have transportation or a person they can call to take them to their dialysis appointments, which they need to have to survive. These services provide comments like the one on Facebook's SLC scanner where the resident posted, "I had to share this sweet moment this morning. This man drives a St. Lucie County bus. He comes to the Alzheimer's Center on Jenkins Road and brings a client there. He gets out, holds her hand, walks her in to make sure she's safe, and gets to the door. What a sweet person to make sure these patients are safe and transported safely." Or this compliment from St. Lucie County rider Timothy G. called in to say, "The customer service of Area Regional Transit, whether they are the drivers, the people at base, or you, Miss Kathy Patagno, yes, I'm talking to you, all of you, every one of you. No matter who it is, you all treat me like a king, and I can't thank you enough for making me feel so special." Or from a caretaker, like this resident who called and said, "Good morning, I'm calling for Robert who rides your transit, and I also want to compliment you on your service. It's been a lifesaver for him. I am his fiance. I just made the reservation for the next 2 weeks for him. And again, I want to thank you for the beautiful service he is receiving. It's really helping me as his caretaker. I have so much responsibility and it's very tiring." Last one, I promise. Or the resident that needed to go to the food bank. "Hi, I just wanted to thank you, the driver that brought me to the food bank in Fort Pierce. He helped me so much and went way out of his way. And then we picked up another lady who was in a wheelchair. He did so much for her in her wheelchair. He had the best attitude. He showed so much care and concern and was positive and smiling. Thank you so much." With so many residents that rely on the service, it is hard to put a price tag on it. These are just a few of the 265 compliments we received last year. How do we do this while keeping up with our growing community and reducing our maintenance costs? Well, I'm glad you asked. Most transit agencies replace one vehicle for every one they retire. To keep pace with the rapid growth of St. Lucie County, we accelerated our fleet replacement strategy to build a younger, more reliable, cost-effective fleet. Approximately 95% of the cost of our replacement vehicles is currently funded through federal grants, allowing us to leverage outside funding instead of relying on local tax dollars for vehicle purchases. By next year, we will reduce the average fleet age from 6.7 years down to 4.5 years. The investment delivers long-term savings for taxpayers by reducing locally funded maintenance and repair costs. Simply put, we are using federal dollars to reduce local operating costs while providing safer, more dependable service to our community. Here are some of the team's accomplishments. To the right, you will see the increased ridership on our 3 main services, fixed route, paratransit, and microtransit. We saw an over 10% increase in ridership year over year, which is considered excellent growth compared to the transit agencies across the country. I'd also like to share that St. Lucie County's Area Regional Transit ranks 5th out of 29 agencies across the state in cost per passenger trip. More importantly, we were also the second lowest cost in operating expenses per capita against those same 29 agencies. This slide touches on our current focus. From a capital standpoint, Transit continues to concentrate our efforts on building a centrally located operations and maintenance facility. We have also made a joint effort with the City of Port St. Lucie to enhance the Port St. Lucie intermodal facility. From an operational standpoint, we will be changing Route 7 to enhance the service, as well as to improve safety due to the increase in traffic causing delays on the route. It also paves the way for future expansion of Route 7 as Indrio Road develops. We're also going to be combining Routes 5 and 8 later this year, which will provide better customer experience for residents traveling between Fort Pierce and Tradition, as well as students getting to IRSC. This slide says it all when it comes to what transit means for our economy. There is a 5-to-1 return on long-term investment into transit, and 87% of trips directly benefit local economy. Transit is more than just an economic return. Transit allows residents to go to work, which helps our residents and the businesses. Transit allows riders to get to stores to get what they need, which also generates more dollars for local businesses. Transit allows students to get to colleges and charter schools. Transit provides these opportunities for our residents. I'm going to leave you with one story that is near and dear to my heart. A little while back, we had this resident called our office and was in a panic. She just totaled her vehicle. She was 7 months pregnant and had 2 young children. Later on, we found out she had just moved here a few weeks ago. So she didn't know we had a transit agency, and she said, I need transit. I live in Lakewood Park. My kids go to school in St. Lucie West, and I live in St. Lucie West. So at the time, I didn't know, but our team said, listen, it's not the most convenient. You're going to have to walk 2 blocks. You're going to jump on a van. The van's going to take you to another van, and then you can get your kids to the charter school and get to work. So again, I didn't know about it at the time. A month later, we got a beautiful compliment email in. Our team members call our compliments, and we do get complaints. They call the complaints back as well. So again, the team member called back, no big deal. Well, another month later, we got another letter, like a dissertation. So I said, let me call this rider back. So we started talking. By that time, she had the child. She wanted to meet the dispatchers and reservations. So our team got together. We all chipped in money, and we had like a little baby shower for her at our contractor. When we got to meet her, we found out a lot more, you know, and again, I don't want to get into her personal business, but we had some serious conversations about how she felt with her life. She relocated here from South Carolina to better her life. She said she worked, I forget the name, but it was like a McDonald's, but it was like Bob's Burgers, and that was, you know, a good job where she's from. And now she was no car, pregnant, and 2 kids. Well, it turns out our drivers would make sure they were on time every time. We are late sometimes, incidents happen, but they got to know this rider. They got to bring her, she told me they were bringing her food every day to make sure her kid was full while she was in the belly. And she goes, the impact you guys left on me, she goes, I'll never know, but I can tell you one thing. If this says anything, I name my daughter after your driver, Unity. That's the impact that transit leaves on our residents. So that's all I got. Any questions? Sorry. They told me I had to sell transit. They told me I had to sell transit.
Questions, comments from the commissioner?
Just a comment. Adelphi, you've done a great job. You've won awards. You have grown the transportation. Obviously, it's helped our community and the residents of it. So thank you very much for what you've done. And Tracy and staff.
I'm just here. I got a great team.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to thank you guys and your team. What I think when we met last year for Coffee with the Chair, you'd mentioned at that time you were at 23 or 24 grants being managed by all of 7 people.
6 now, by the way.
6 now, okay. So we all know how much goes into the paperwork and tracking side of grants, so it's amazing they're able to keep up with that many. And then just your fast, quick response. Adolfo answers every time, and if he doesn't, while I'm leaving a message, he's literally calling me back, and it is fixed above and beyond of any of my expectations. So again, thank you to you and your entire team.
Great team. They help a lot.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, you know, budget workshops are mainly focused on revenue and expense, and you know, and that's usually what the focus is. And So some people are probably wondering, what was the last 3-4 hours and the importance of that. And from our vantage point is we look at this as we have over 900 men and women that come to work for St. Lucie County every day and serve the residents of St. Lucie County and Treasure Coast. And I look at what they put into the job every day is a revenue that we can't quantify on any sort of sheet that we see right here. So it's just something that most of the residents don't really realize is how much of an impact most of these folks, when they come to work every day, they're not just coming in and punching a clock and doing a job and going home. They're vested, they care, they love what they do, they go above and beyond, as you could hear from this right here. So we couldn't be prouder of the team that we have, and we would be willing to place it against any team in the world when it comes to serving the public. But that's just some form of revenue that you can't quantify on any sheet of paper. But it was just something that I think the residents really should understand what they have and what they're getting for their dollar. And so I just thank you for letting us do that.
Absolutely.
So now we'll get into some dollars and cents. So last year we introduced a line item budget, and we included it in this year's as well. In this year it's in the budget book. This is just an overall summary of that detailed section of the budget book. And when you look at this, you're going to look at FY26 and then you look at FY27 compared side by side. Yes, FY27, when you get down to the bottom, where people will focus in on, there's a difference at the bottom from 321 million to 332. They're going to see a 3% increase. But overall, the budget is a flat budget, or in a sense a reduced budget, to be able to meet what we're requesting this year. That difference from the 321 to 332 is in certain departments that you'll see that have an increase. Those are capital funds that were allocated in a previous year, or they're half-cent sales tax funds, or they're ARPA money. Those are the types of funds that are in a project that is not done this year, that will be maybe finished up in FY27. So you have to take the remaining balance of what you didn't spend in 26 that's allocated to a project, and you have to account for it in 27. So although you'll look down and say, wait, you told me a flat budget, but it shows a 3% increase, it is, a flat budget. Those funds are funds from previous years that are been allocated towards specific projects that will be carried over, and that'll be detailed out through the budget book and the budget process that way. But when you go by department specific and you look here on the sheet, 95% of the departments are showing a reduction in their budget, and that was the task that we gave them this year, and some met it more than the 3%. And again, the ones that you do see the increases on, that isn't in their operational personnel. That is strictly in a capital fund that is from a carryover project. If you took that away, they'd all be minused, across the board, in a sense. So we are prepared if the board wanted to go through the 70 pages or so of line by line, but I think this here tells the story right there, and we can continue on the presentation. But if through that process, if there's still a question, we're happy to dive back to the line to line if the board chooses.
Commissioner Crosby, anything?
Yeah, just within the first 6 lines there, before anybody starts bragging about lowering their budget or anything, I was wondering if you could just give us a quick analysis of why District 5's is down 12%.
Sure. So if you were to go into the actual line item section of the Board of County Commissioners and you look at that one particularly, the biggest reason is the District 5's aide is considered a salary part-time person, so that person does not take the health benefits, and that equates to about a $25,000 to $30,000 savings for the year. So you would see that reduction in District 5's budget. So you'll see that's why it shows a 12% reduction is that individual employee didn't take health benefits, so therefore that budget was reduced strictly by that. So that was the main key component of that reduction.
Okay, and just to share with my fellow board members, I feel that my executive aide is a critical part of this job. She was on vacation during the 4th of July time, and definitely felt her absence in that. We handle numerous constituent phone calls, meetings, emails. While I'm even meeting with staff, she's handling getting people connected with the right departments and various other things. I think it's a critical part of this for constituent services. There's many employees in the county, but we are the ones, our aides are the ones that directly work for the people specifically. Obviously, all our county employees work for the people, but when they have complaints, they often will call a commissioner maybe first, and then we route them to the right place. So I think that it's just a critical part of the job. And I will say that I'm not about to ask my executive assistant to not take benefits. So just throwing that out there.
No, good point. I had, because when I saw the breakdown, obviously I looked at my district and I said, whoa, wait a minute, I didn't ask for any increases. Why do I show more? And just since we're highlighting it for District 4, it's going to come down to health insurance from the election of my prior aide to the difference of election in my new aide. So that's why it shows. As far as everything else, it's apples to apples. I've not increased anything. But when I saw that 6%, I said, wait a minute, George.
Well, and an interesting point, Madam Chair, Commissioners, when for anybody that downloads the budget book or looks at it online, when they look even at each one of your district's budgets, an interesting thing is you only have yourself and your aide, right? So that you have 2 employees. So as an example, our annual for the county itself, EAP increase, when it came in, it had an increase to every employee, but we're talking like $15 for the year, right? So for you and your 1 employee, it shows in each one of your line items that you have a 30-some% increase in that line item because it went from $60 to $90, sort of thing. So people will pick on the percentage and go, what is going on? Why did they spend 36% in this line item? But if it was a $4 piece and it goes to, $8, that's a 100% increase, so people are going to focus on the percentage and not the dollar amount, but we really want to drive them back to the dollar amount because overall that's what it is how much is the money cost. Percentages can really throw things out of cue.
All right, so what's the board, are we wanting, does anyone want to go through any line item departments?
We still have a lot to get to of the departments through the
Okay.
budget process, so,
Yep.
but, we could circle back to it if there's still questions at the end.
Sounds good to me.
Madam Chair, I
Commissioner
think
Fuzzy?
the line items, it's good to have this. When we get to potential scenarios, we have the data there, but to continue with the process as we're going.
Agreed.
So, a little recap from yesterday's, beginning part. When we created the budget process, it started in January, and we're here now through today, and it'll continue on through September. So, when we made the book, we made the book off of an estimate of what we thought the numbers were, and then we have the June numbers and the July numbers. And so we have the updated budget recommendation, and we also did not have, House Joint Resolution 1F. So again, our updated recommendation for the board, and we're just saying this up front, we'll go through the reasons why here in the next 40 or 60 slides, is to pause FY27's recommended budget increase for organizations that are increasing their reliance on property tax and proceed with the budget reductions and strategically pause on some of the capital projects. And we're only asking for those increases to be on a hold for the 34 days until we receive the ballot results. So, you have your book, and we couldn't put this on, we couldn't get all your covers back and reprint the yellow line across the cover. So, this is your recommend pause of the increases. And again, it's for everybody listening and those that we'll be still talking to tomorrow and things of that nature is we're only asking, administration's only recommending to this board to consider that pause for the 34 days while we figure out what goes on with the ballot initiative. So I will turn this part over to Jennifer.
St. Lucie County works hard to be good steward of its resources. For the last 28 years, we have earned the GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association's Budget Presentation Award, where we meet national guidelines for effective budget presentation as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and a communications device. The budget is the County Commission's ultimate policy document. We have also worked hard to create a culture of continuous improvement. The board's fiscal stewardship has also been recognized by the financial institutions with a AA rating, which is considered a very strong credit rating. The county's strategic plan helps to guide the budget process as the budget requests are reviewed to ensure their alignment with the 6 strategic goals depicted here. The board has also identified 9 priority areas that are considered during the budget process, and later in the presentation today, we will identify several of the projects that are in the budget that specifically tie to these priorities. As was discussed yesterday, the proposed constitutional amendment does several major things. It increases the homestead exemption for existing Florida residents, first year to $150,000, the second year to $250,000, with the possibility of it increasing to the point where it has full elimination of homesteaded property taxes, as would be done by general law. It also limits future assessment growth on non-homesteaded properties from 10% each year to 5% cap each year. Creates a residency 5-year waiting period for new Florida residents before they receive the homestead exemption. Now that will go into place for anything, for anybody that's not already a resident when the law goes into place, if this were to be approved by the voters. And it restricts how counties and municipalities may spend their property tax revenues. And as noted yesterday, it requires 60% of the approval of the voters to go into effect. On this slide, you see the depiction where St. Lucie County is the highest percentage impact of all of the counties in the state of Florida, as we are very much a bedroom community with a lot of properties that are homesteaded. And you also have the recap of the estimated impacts. Just a reminder, that we have 2 official sources of estimates right now. First, Florida Association of Counties, and the second, the Revenue Estimating Conference. Florida Association of Counties estimates that in year 1 of the new legislation, the impact would be $66.6 million. In year 2, which would be our fiscal year 29, it would be $112.5 million. The Revenue Estimating Conference is actually the more official of the two estimates. It is done by the state's Revenue Estimating Conference. However, when they do their estimates, they do them for the county as a whole, and so those numbers on this slide include all of the non-school taxing authorities. So those numbers would include the cities, the water management districts, and everybody that taxes other than schools, as they are exempt from this process. Just a quick note, if I take a look at all of the taxes that are on this year's tax bill and compare it proportionately to what I'm seeing here, the percentage of taxes we collect on the tax bill for the non-school taxes is about 54%. And so if you take 54% of the 2 numbers from the Revenue Estimating Conference, you also come very close to the Florida Association of Counties numbers. So throughout our presentations, we tend to focus on Florida Association of Counties figures because they are specific to the Board of County Commissioners operations. And so you'll see that discussed as we go throughout this presentation. Okay, so what does that mean to St. Lucie County as far as the money that goes towards different services? The total tax bill and the amount levied on the current tax year is about $337 million in property taxes levied from this board to fund all of the board's operations, as well as the constitutional officers and the municipal service taxing units. Of that money, almost $200 million goes to fund agencies that are mandated by the state where the county is required to fund them. Those include our 5 constitutional officers, several judicial agencies, a portion of Medicaid, community redevelopment authorities, juvenile detention, the health department, and mental health. So what is left to go to fund all of the BOCC services, which is all of the discussions that we've had yesterday afternoon and this morning from our departments, all of those services, any portion of their operations that are being funded by property taxes is coming from this $140 million that is left after we fund those other agencies. And so with the possibility of losing or the possibility of in 2 years having a revenue stream that is $112 million less than what we are currently operating on, dealing with that level of reduction in revenue, it would cause us to need to look at several different possibilities as to how to handle that impact, including decreasing expenditures, increasing revenues, and shifting costs to other legally available revenue sources if possible. So this slide just depicts a few of the things that we're currently looking at as to how we would address that going forward. In addition to those things that we're already currently looking at, we have some potential additional fiscal strategies, including freezing future event sponsorships, continue review of revenue diversification options, and reviewing the potential for consolidation efforts. Here we see a history of the county's budget as it aligns with the increase in population over the last 12 years. When we talk about the county's budget, the recommended budget is currently at $969 million. There's often a perception that it's all property taxes, and so what I want to show here is that we do get several other revenue sources. However, many of those are restricted in nature, where we can't necessarily just take that money and move it to something to fill in a gap in property tax revenue. So of the $969 million proposed budget, about 37% of it is property taxes, 34% is balances forward, which would include your reserves, capital projects that are being planned out for the next 5-year period, as well as cash flow issues.
So, Madam Chair, one of the things that we wanted to do this year was to spend a little time highlighting our operational budget versus the overall budget. You know, and I think last year when we went through the budget workshop, you know, one commissioner kind of had reference, like we have, you know, if we're showing over $900 million budget, you know, and there's a potential for a 3% or 10% reduction, you know, they're thinking of the overall 900 million, because that's all that we keep saying to the residents, and we're not really basically breaking it down into actually how our budget is. So we wanted to put this slide together to kind of show that the budget's kind of broke down into different categories, and the categories are operational budget, you know, and the operational budget's broke down from the ad valorem and then the other revenues that we receive, and then the carryover or the you know, carry forward balances. So when you actually look, the operating budget isn't 969 million, you know, it's literally 625 million is the operating budget, and that's derived from the two funds, which is our ad valorem, you know, which is from all the millage rates combined to hit that 369, and then the non-ad valorem, which is our utility, solid waste, the impact fees, you know, the infrastructure sales tax, et cetera, which is 255 million, and all of those funds in that 255 are a lot of restrictions, a lot of very specific, ways to spend that money. So it's not money that has the same flexibility as some of the ad valorem funds. And then when you see the $344 million that comes from carry forward or cash flow balances, instantly some folks are going to say, well, that means you have $340 million in the bank to spend however you want. And that's not the case either. We'll dive in deeper on the reserves and the cash flow and what those funds are for towards capital project grants, things of that nature. But we really need to do a better job telling our story that, yes, the overall budget is $969, but really we're only operating with $369 million of actual tax money. So it's 1/3 of the budget, of the overall budget, comes from ad valorem. But we're not even operating out of the full 969. We're really operating only out of 2/3 of that. So we just kind of wanted to share that to help, for some misunderstanding of how the message gets out there.
Very good.
And that's the $369 million in property tax revenue is broken down here. 47.6% of that revenue goes to fund the constitutional officer budgets. 41.9% goes to fund the Board of County Commissioners budget, with the remaining amounts going to other mandated expenses, including the community redevelopment agencies, the judicial agencies, health department, mental health, and Medicaid. So the services that the county provides and mandated expenses that are included in the budget are incorporated here. On the left-hand side, you see the different entities that the county funds that are mandated expenses. These are where we're making payments to other organizations as required by law. On the right-hand side, on the top part, you have county services that the Board of County Commissioners provides. Everything from emergency management to veteran services to county extension. As well as you see here, the two dependent districts, our erosion district and our mosquito control district. In addition to those county services, the county also provides municipal services. Some of those are provided only for the unincorporated area, and as such, the taxes related to those only get applied to tax bills for people that reside in the unincorporated area. Some of those services include building inspections, water and wastewater, and garbage pickup. Some of the other municipal services that the county provides are for different areas other than the unincorporated area. Those include transit in the landfill, where we provide the services to an expanded area based on interlocal agreements, and our South Hutchinson Island Beach Erosion District, which is only a small portion of the unincorporated area. So on this slide, we have a lot of numbers. But this slide is meant to depict where that $140-ish million property tax amount that is going to Board of County Commissioners operations is going. And you'll notice on this slide it is actually $139.5 million, whereas on the other slide we showed $140.5 million. Later in the presentation, you will see that this budget actually includes putting $1 million into reserve. So instead of $140.5 million, our BOCC operations for the coming year are relying on $139.5 million when it comes to property taxes. Some important things to note here, though, are that this is a lot of information, and it's the complexities behind it are tell a lot of the story. And so when you look at any of these individual departments and you see how much property taxes is going there, you also see how much is going to be that is being funded by other funding sources. And a lot of times those funding sources are restricted. Just because there's other money there doesn't mean that they can use it to do all the things that they currently are using it for. One example would be Parks and Recreation. On this slide, you see that their overall budget for all the things that were discussed earlier, all the things they do, is $20 million. 11 million of that comes from property taxes. The other roughly 9 million comes from other sources. But those other sources primarily include impact fees. Some of it also includes charges for services such as the golf course operations. But by and large, the 11.2 million is what funds the operations, and if they didn't have the money to fund the operations, those operations could not be funded with impact fees. They couldn't operate the pools based off of the charges that are being paid out of the golf course. And so when you look at what $112 million means to BOCC operations, you can't just look at the $400 million and say, oh, that's less than 30% of it. We certainly can find a way to do it. When you look at the details within specific budgets, there are some of those budgets that are completely funded by property taxes, and trying to figure out a path forward of how we can balance providing services along with with property taxes is where the challenge lies. So of the portion of the property taxes that is going to fund constitutional officers, this slide just breaks down to depict how much of that goes to each of the 5 constitutional officers. Obviously, public safety being a priority, the sheriff's office is the majority of that, with the remainder going to the other 4: supervisor of elections, clerk of court, tax collector, and property appraiser. As we have already talked at length on the departmental operations, this slide just highlights a few additional accomplishments that might not have already been mentioned, including completion of the construction of the Keene Road Bridge over Taylor Creek, replacing one of the last remaining woodpile bridges in St. Lucie County, and redevelopment of the Port St. Lucie branch library to double the size with a modern facility. Here we see the property taxes that are incorporated into the upcoming budget, broken down by each of the taxing districts within St. Lucie County. The largest portion being the general fund, and the next being our fine and forfeiture fund. But in addition to those, you have the erosion control district, mosquito control district, unincorporated services, MSTU, stormwater MSTU, law enforcement MSTU, transportation MSTU, and the South Hutchinson Island beach erosion control MSBTU.
And yesterday, Madam Chair, during our conversation, it was brought up about, they would like to see some sort of, how would it break down by agency when you look at millage rates, by entities and things. So when you think of this pie chart of what's collected coming in by district, the general fund, the fine and forfeiture, obviously the independent districts, mosquito control and erosion are self-explanatory, but when you see the rest in South, and then South Hutch erosion, but mainly when you're looking at, general fund, fine and forfeiture fund, and then some of the unincorporated MSTUs like law enforcement and things, we had put together a slide, which Jennifer will advance to the next one here to show, and this kind of is how the allocation of funds under the current makeup, if you were to apply it by millage rate, right? So if you were to look at our 7.9982 total millage, and you broke it down, at a high level this way, you see the sheriff would account for, on his current budget, 2.8488 of the millage. With the other constitutionals only being 0.68 of it. You see the judicial agencies, Department of Health, New Horizons, then you see Medicaid, juvenile detention, the CRAs, you see Board of County Commissioners Public Safety, which is our 911 dispatchers and emergency management, inmate medical, and then the specific MSTUs, independent districts, so that's your erosion, transit, those kind of things. And then when you actually get to the board departments, everybody that we've heard from, aside from the special districts, we're only 2.41 of the millage. So when it comes to money that's collected in, from ad valorem, we give more out than we use, in a sense, and that's just an easy illustration right there. So that's kind of how it's broke down. So I figured it was a relevant slide because I knew that was something that we talked about last year, and we wanted to have it, built into this one this year. So, and I know there's been a ton of questions probably that you've all taken notes and are waiting till we get into these number parts, but I'm hoping that we have slides for those two as we go forward. But any questions on this one?
I'm sure.
Commissioner Clausby.
Yeah, I think this is an important breakdown for the public. I mean, the dollar, how a dollar is spent is good, but this actually breaks it down a little bit better. Shows exactly where it goes. So yeah, thank you for this. Maybe even have this on a pie chart would be good too, but this is a nice breakdown. Thanks.
Absolutely.
But next, we're going to talk a little bit about the recommended budget. And so, as I mentioned yesterday, the recommended budget was built and distributed to you by the end of June, which means we did not yet have the July 1st property value estimate. So everything we're going to talk about here all reflects the recommended budget as it was presented to you. Later on, we will talk about what adjustments happened as related to the July 1st updated estimates. But the recommended budget included a 4.65% increase in property values. That generates approximately $12.7 million in money that would go back into our general fund and fine and forfeiture fund. And so the original recommendations of what where those dollars were going are depicted on these next couple slides. The first here is those items that really this board has no control over the amount that we have to pay. Those are the amounts that we have to pay to the CRAs, Medicaid, property appraiser, and tax collector. And the property appraiser and tax collector, even though they are constitutional officers just like the other three constitutional officers, these two budgets are actually approved by the state through the Department of Revenue. So while we fund them, we really don't have any control over how much we end up having to pay. So if you take that $12.7 million and just deduct those areas that you don't have any control over, we're left with approximately $9.4 million. The $9.4 million is allocated in the budget in the following manner. The supervisor of elections, the actual requested budget was $488,000 less than last year's budget, so that decrease is in the recommended budget. For the clerk of the court, the fiscal year 26 budget of $4.7 million was being requested to be increased to just under $5.3 million. The county administrator's recommendation was instead to increase it by $200,000. However, as was noted yesterday and at the beginning of this afternoon, the current recommendation is being updated to recommend that any of these numbers on this slide and some of the other slides to be put on pause for 34 days. So in this example, the recommendation would now be to have it at $4.7 million with $200,000 set aside for the purpose of funding the clerk of the court, but not actually release that $200,000 until after we can get a handle on the results of the referendum. The next item on this slide being the sheriff's office, the current budget of $114.6 million was requested to go up to $126.7 million. The recommendation is now to bring it to $112.6 million, which is an $8 million increase, but hold that $8 million on pause until we know the results of the referendum and can come up with a game plan of how to address the impacts of that. The last item on here is the judicial agencies. Their current budgets total $6.6 million. They're requesting a total of $7 million, which equates to a $394,345 increase. That increase is St. Lucie County's portion of these agencies' budgets. However, for the judicial agencies, there are interlocal agreements with the 3 other counties in the 19th Judicial Circuit, and so their budgets are approved by all 4 entities, and if all 4 entities don't approve the budget, then they don't get the increase. So the recommendation here is the $394,345 increase for the recommendation. However, we need to keep an eye out and understand the intricacies of how they operate, and so that one we need to decide of whether or not it would be something that would be put on hold or whether it would be released as part of the October 1st budget.
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioners, that one we may not have the ability to hold on, and we're sort of okay with that. It's a small amount. Some of those amounts are due to a percentage of the formula increase anyway, so even if it was a flat, it would be an increase because the formula changes I had alluded to yesterday, where we're up a couple percentage points. So that bottom one, that one might have to move forward regardless of that, and that's a combination of all the judicial agencies. So that's when you're talking state attorney, public defender, chief judge, yada yada in there. But again, it's a 4-county aspect. So if the other 3 counties are inclined to fund, it usually kind of goes with majority rule. So we would probably want to, and we'll have that more information when we get to the actual budget time.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Klasky.
So question, either George or OMB, the judicial agencies, that formula is set by an interlocal agreement or state statute?
I believe the formula is in the interlocal agreements. It is, well, I believe it's in the interlocal agreements, but I'm not sure whether there's any statutory reference to it being broken down that way, because I know there are other circuits in the state, and I don't know how the other ones work, but for us, when it comes to the public defender, state attorney, guardian ad litem, court administration, and victim services, it is a population-based formula. And so, as was mentioned yesterday, this last year, that population-based formula had us paying 50% of those budgets. This year, with that formula being updated to reflect that we've been growing faster than the other 3 counties, we are at 52%. The one judicial agency that is not done by that same formula is the medical examiner's office. The medical examiner's office, it's a formula built off of number of deaths within the counties as well as the number of autopsies performed within the counties. This year, for some reason, Okeechobee County has experienced a large increase in the proportional share of number of deaths and autopsies, and so for the medical examiner's office, our budget is actually going down, even though our population is going up and the budget is going up, and it's because more of it is shifting to Okeechobee County. So I think that it is in the interlocal agreements, being that one of them is done differently than the others, unless Catherine corrects me if she's aware of any statutory references. I'm not.
I'm not sure, of that. I'd have to look into it. I know there's interlocals out there, but I'm not positive whether there's statutes on judicial agencies, but I don't know if there's a formula in there or not.
Okay. Well,
I'm happy to look into it.
Yeah, I think we need to confirm that, because I don't see why we would treat judicial agencies any different than the sheriff or the other constitutionals. If we're pausing, we're pausing.
And that's fine. We just need to be aware that if the way those interlocals work is if any one of the counties doesn't approve an amount in the budget, it gets taken out for everybody. So
I think I'm fine with that, because
Okay.
if this property tax thing goes through, we're going to have to rework the interlocal agreement anyways.
okay, that's
I don't know
fair.
the rest of the
It-
board, but if there's no property tax, there's no money to share, so.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fine. We
everything
just
will
want to
have
make
be
sure
like
you.
that, yeah.
And we're the highest impacted county compared to the others, so I think that there'll need to be a renegotiation there.
And we just want to make sure you are aware of the impact of your action, that with that one, you're not just impacting our budget, you're impacting the circuit's budget. And so that is, I believe that the way those interlocals work, that would still be within your prerogative to make that decision. But if something is put on hold, it would affect the other entities. And we can talk further about that in the presentations tomorrow, because some of them, there are some details in those budgets that impact how much they affect the other entities. So, for example, the court administration budget, when you look at it, St. Lucie County's share is going up quite a bit, while their overall budget is going down. It's because they have some parts of their budget that are specific to St. Lucie County. And so we can talk in more detail about that when we get into their budgets tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so one thing I wanted to point out, starting with this slide, is from here to the end of the presentations today, you will see a handful of slides like this where there are parts of it that are in red, that are where we're talking about the pausing for 34 days. This is just the first of about 3 or 4 slides. And so as we get to those, I'll try and stop and make sure that you're aware of these are the things that we're trying to pause, because I know there was question about that yesterday.
And also during wrap-up tomorrow, we'll have some slides that are very specific to what we're asking you to hold and not hold, so it's plain, is clean and plain, and you're not having to go dance around through the book to find it out.
Okay.
So here we have a history of our payments to the community redevelopment areas. So the 27 budget includes a little over $16 million. It's roughly evenly split of just about $8 million for Port St. Lucie's CRAs and about $8 million for Fort Pierce's. The CRAs are actually broken down into, there's 4 CRAs in the city of Port St. Lucie and 4 in the city of Fort Pierce. This slide just reflects the breakdown of the individual CRAs within that collective $16 million total. Okay. Yesterday we had some conversation on reserves. Here, what we're trying to show is that earlier this year we had an item at an informal meeting where we talked at length about the county's reserves, and we went through an exercise based off of some guidelines that the Government Finance Officers Association put out. They actually put out this worksheet that has several different ways to measure your risk. And so our office went through that exercise. The clerk went through that exercise. We actually had our Citizens Budget Committee work through that exercise with us. And by and large, I think collectively we are of the opinion that our organization falls in what GFOA considers a moderate to high level of risk. And under their guidelines, what that means is that their recommendation would be that we should consider adopting a target amount of reserves significantly higher than the minimum level, and that range that they're looking at is between 26% and 35%. GFOA's minimum level of reserves is actually 16.6%. And so I want to take a moment here to try to explain what that means. at the minimum level of reserves, 16.6% is the equivalent of 2 divided by 6, 2 months out of 12 months. And so what having a reserve that that gives you 2 months of your budget means is that in our property tax funds, we start spending that money in those budgets starting October 1st. However, the property taxes don't come into the county until towards the end of November. The property taxes go out on the tax bills sent out by the tax collector at the end of October, and then those payments start to flow from the property owners to the tax collector in November, and then at the end of November, the tax collector starts to turn that money over to the county. So in that period from October 1st until December 1st, we're spending money, we're operating, and if we had zero reserves, we would not have enough money to make the payments between October 1st and December 1st. And so really, that 16.6% is needed just for cash flow purposes. So on the right-hand side, you see what we have in our general fund and fine and forfeiture fund in reserves in the recommended budget is $112 million, which is 25.7% of those funds. Under GFOA's guidelines, 16.6% is really the minimum level. So those are the monies that are really needed for cash flow purposes. The orange level would be the amount we need to get us to the next level of risk, which is the low to moderate level of risk. And so those are monies that then would be available for emergency response and hurricane damage, and removing debris off of the streets and that type of thing. And so in this case, for St. Lucie County, that equates to about $36.3 million. Now, you remember from the conversation yesterday, the total expenditures that we had in 2004 related to Hurricanes Francis and Jean exceeded $100 million. And so while we aren't building our reserves to try to capture enough to have all of that money all out at once, this budget does allow enough to cover our cash flow reserves and give us some money towards funding those emergency operations where we would be spending money out, but at the same time we would expect insurance money would come in at some point and FEMA money would come in at some point. And so on the graph you have the three areas, the blue being the cash flow part, the orange being the part that gets us to the low to moderate risk level, and then the green part is where we start to fund the level at the moderate to high risk level. So we have $3 million over what would be the category to get us just to the low to moderate to risk level. I know that's a lot, but I know there was a lot of conversation yesterday about reserves. While I'm on this slide, does anybody have any additional conversation you want to have related to reserves? Okay.
I think we're good
All right.
at the moment.
for the moment. I know it's a complicated issue, and here we are just focusing on the general fund and fine and forfeiture fund, and the reason for that is these are the monies that are flexible enough that we can use them for emergencies. We can use them for the things that come up and arise that may be needed for the operation. In addition, our general fund also is the most flexible of the county's funds. So if one of our other funds ends up in a financial bind and we needed to utilize some money to provide services in emergencies, there's a possibility that some of these funds could go to get through those emergencies, whereas the other funds within the organization really cannot be used that way. So as I mentioned a couple other areas of the presentation when we have extra money, or not extra, when we have unallocated money in something like impact fees. That money, it might sit in a reserve, but it isn't the same as this. It is in those instances where it's something that's capital specific, it actually sits there to be put into the capital improvement plan projects that are in the out years. So all of our capital funds that have reserves, if you go through the capital section of the budget book and you look at the bottom of every one of the capital funds, you'll see an amount that is an amount in that year that is expected to carry over into the next year. But then if you look in the next year, it's actually allocated out to projects. That money at the bottom of every one of our capital project funds is sitting in reserves, but if you can look at the plan and you can see what that money is being spent on in the future. I'm going to turn it over to the other Jennifer for a little bit.
Yep. And I'm going to hone in on some of the stuff that has been for the FY27 budget as far as infrastructure and some of the projects that we have. And again, as we go through these slides, you will see a couple things that are in red, and those are the things that we talked about earlier being paused. So on our first slide, we'll talk about the infrastructure on the roads, water, sewer, and stormwater. I won't read through all of these, but you can see that we have budgeted $7.8 million in road resurfacing, $6 million for Johnston Road, Canal 1 and Canal 15, the McCarty Bridge, $5 million for Selvets road improvements, 1.2 for bridge repairs, and 100,000 for traffic calming. Oh, it told me no. It vibrated. Okay. Last year, the board issued bonds to fund some of our most critical capital utility needs. These included the Taylor Dairy Water Treatment Plant, North County Taylor Creek Deep Injection Well, the Kings Highway Water Main, the Central County and Taylor Dairy Construction, and Range Line Road. The half-cent sales tax, road impact fees, and stormwater municipal service taxing unit, MSTU, continue to be utilized to provide funding that helps to address water quality issues. Some of these projects are the emergency culverts, Harmony Heights, $4 million for the Port Region stormwater construction, Melville Road Phase, and the Outfall Baffle Box program. We'll move into the air and seaport development. We have $1.5 million for the commercial service readiness, $4.7 for the Aero West Taxiway, and $460,000 for airport gates. Moving on to the seaport, we've had $6 million to continue with the development of Harbor Point, and $4 million for Port Regional stormwater construction. On the next slide, we're going to talk about housing affordability and workforce housing. $400,000 is going for local government contribution made to developers to level funding for the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. $600,000 in reoccurring funding for the continued operation of the Treasure Coast Homeless Service Council Housing Hub. And then $200,000 toward rental assistance program to assist low-income residents that are cost burdened with housing costs. The next slide we're going to cover is environmental protection. And these are some of the capital improvements too. When we talk about capital improvements, we try to do a 5-year projection. So this funding for these capital projects help to enhance, preserve, and provide greenways and trails. The FY27 recommended budget is funding for Cypress Creek, Myers Stickler, Spruce Bluff Preserve, Bluefield Ranch, Teague Hammock, DJ Wilcox Preserve, and Oxbow. I didn't name my favorite because I didn't want to show favorites, but
And Madam Chair, this is everything that's in the FY27 recommended. I know we're going through these pretty quick, so if there's any ones that you want to talk about or questions on, we're happy to just jump right in and we can pause and talk about any of them, but, or we can go back through them, once we get to the finish and if there's anything, but I see some folks taking notes, so I just wanted to see if anybody had any questions thus far or wanted to talk about anything before we get too far into it.
I do have notes or comments, but I'm good with letting Jennifer finish out this part and then
We'll go back
revisit.
through.
Yeah.
Am I moving too fast?
You
I
are
can
not.
slow- Okay,
No.
I can slow down. Okay. Economic development and transit. We continued funding for the transit department's mission to obtain or to optimize the public transit system, modernizing the county's bus system, reducing traffic congestion, and allowing residents to access mobility services that provide life essentials access to employment, education and job training, healthcare, and nourishment. $500,000 towards the Transit Operations Center, $350,000 for replacement of fixed route buses, $780,000 toward the continuation of the microtransit service, and $300,000 to maintain paratransit and transportation disadvantaged services. The next slide is tourism, and this one's fresh because it feels like Charlotte is still here. But the fairground operating budget is funded by the general fund and user fees. The budget also includes $1 million for parks impact fees to enhance the fairgrounds with the potential development of the adventure district. The tourism operating budget is funded by 1 penny of the tourist development tax that is approved by the Tourist Development Council each year. Some of the highlights on the tourism budget are $275,000 for promotional advertising and $275,000 to aid private organizations, which is the Treasure Coast Sports Commission. Next, we'll talk about public safety. Safeguarding and preserving the lives and property of the residents and businesses of St. Lucie County is a top priority. In this recommended 27 budget, we have $8 million for the St. Lucie County's request increase. We have $499,189 for 911 dispatch consoles and $846,579 amount for the operating increase for 9/11. Facilities and operational efficiency. This budget consists of continuing to set aside annual reoccurring revenues towards a future campus. This budget includes reoccurring revenue dedicated to capital maintenance. The budget also includes funding for the following capital replacement and maintenance projects. The jail perimeter fence. This has been a 5-year reoccurring plan at $750,000. $1 million for the jail roof replacement. $500,000 for the Sheriff's Administrative Building renovation, another $550,000 for the Sheriff Administrative Building HVAC upgrades, another $650,000 to the Sheriff's Admin Building generator, and $1 million to Admin's Roger Poitras generator replacement Phase 2. On the second slide, for facilities and operational efficiency, we have the EOC exterior walls, EOC gates, EOC outside air unit replacements, Hurston Library roof replacement, library building exterior waterproofing and painting, Kilmer Branch Library elevator modernization, and a computer replacement project, along with network infrastructure replacements. Fiscal responsible and revenue generation. Fiscal responsibility today ensures that fiscal strength in the future. This responsibility involving maintaining quality and essential infrastructure, addressing population growth, and supporting economic growth with commitment to carefully managing and planning. St. Lucie County moves forward with innovation and adaptability remains central to our mission. When existing citizens advisory boards such as Citizens Budget Committee encourages residents to play an active role in shaping St. Lucie County's future. By fostering transparent communication and welcoming diverse perspectives, the county aims to cultivate a sense of shared purpose among residents, local businesses, and government leaders alike. Next, we're going to talk about positions. On this particular slide, we always hold on to that 2007 because it was such a critical time for the BOCC, but you can see in 2007 we had 982.78 full-time equivalent positions. We are at, in 2027, 931.88 full-time positions, and you can see every year from 2007 to 2027, the budget has increased significantly. On this position count on the FTEs, the BOCC operates with 931.88 total FTEs. One position was eliminated in FY26. The FY27 recommended budget equals no new FTEs recommended from the general fund or fine and forfeiture. The recommended 1 FTE is funded by the Building and Code Regulation and Enterprise Fund, which is funded by fees. 620.34 of the total FTEs are funded by property taxes, about 67% of the total FTEs. If increases to the homestead exemption and further caps to the non-homesteaded properties are approved in November, there will be significant budget shortfalls. This will result in impacts to staffing levels and will result in negative impacts to service delivery. Next, we'll talk about the preliminary and certified values. Our preliminary numbers came in at 4.65% of the taxable value increase. That was the June 1st number, with which is basically a 10.7 million available for allocations after we pay our tax collector fees and our CRAs. The 7.1 number, the certified property value number, came in at 7.73%. That leaves us with 19.7 million available for allocations. On these next slides, we're going to talk about some of the major capital projects. On this slide, off the bat, you've heard me mention it earlier on some of the previous slides. We have the airport readiness at 1.5 million, the Selvitz road improvement at 5 million, the Sunshine Kitchen chiller plant at 1.3 you see has a red dot. That is one of those projects that we are pausing. So any of the ones that you see with a red dot is the potential paused projects. So the Port Regional Stormwater construction at 4 million, the Harbor Point at 6 million. Those we're requesting to be paused.
So when we went through, we showed an earlier slide of it just in a line item, and then this here is more of a graphic showing some of the same stuff that we went over before. And as you can see, that a lot of the road projects and some of the other capital projects we're suggesting to continue to move forward on and only hold on some of the capital projects that even though, for an example, Harbor Point, even though that's going to be funded through park impact fees, the concern is if we invest, $14 to $18 million into Harbor Point and create a beautiful area, but then we don't have the FTEs to maintain it, that would be a failed way to go. So that's one of the ones that we're just saying hold for that 34 days to figure out what happens, so we can know if we'd be even able to staff it once we created it. And that kind of goes the same with some of the other projects, and that's why we're asking to put those on hold. But the other ones were road resurfacing and Johnson Road and McCarty Bridge and things like that. We still would like to move forward on.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby.
George, is the Port Regional Stormwater construction required for Harbor Point?
It is not necessarily required for Harbor Point. That's one of the ones that we're trying to create that regional stormwater off of Avenue M in order to free up more land at the port for development for recreational use or some sort of revenue generating use. But again, that's one of those that if we don't know if we're going to have the revenue to finish it or sustain it or operate it, why venture down that path? Because that one is another one that it might be used a certain fees to build it, but then you still got to maintain it, and that becomes that operational cost, which would require ad valorem, whether it be coming through erosion or through through general fund, fine and forfeiture fund. So we don't know where we're going to end up on that one. So yeah, they're painful to ask you to put those on pause, because those are stuff that we're all as equally excited about doing, but we just got to be smart about this till we figure out what the future looks like.
Well, to the board, I mean, given that it says Harbor Point's funded by impact fees, I mean, I'm in my mind that's a green dot next to it and not a red dot. So just keeping that in mind.
And that's, and again, 100% it's not tax money, it's impact fees to build it, but then we don't have the way to maintain it, and that's the part of it, because it would require,
How much
people
are we
every
maintaining
day.
our boat ramps today?
There's folks from parks that visit them every single day and do
Mowing.
repairs, mow, maintain the restrooms, everything like that, and then as the parking lot needs repairing, they work on it. There's folks that visit our boat ramps every single day, and that's the challenge that you have, is they're always going to be staff present every day, emptying all the trash cans, doing everything that way, making sure it's a functioning, make sure there's nothing broken.
As far as the boat ramp goes, I think that's a larger discussion as to how we would move forwards of maintaining anything with the lack of $112 million annually. I mean, boat ramps is a key point where if that did come to pass, I mean, a pay-for-use sort of situation could help cover the maintenance of it. So again, I would say that that's still a green in my book, but.
I have a clarifying question. I know we have it marked on Harbor Point there, but when I look in the book, it says specifically it's for boat ramp construction. So is the $6 million specifically for the boat ramp construction?
Correct.
And it's funded through the park impact fees?
It is, and again, it's only a 34-day pause. If the board was still, even after if the ballot initiative passed in November and the board was like, hey, we still want to do boat ramps, but then we would be able to devise a plan to come up with a strategy on how to maintain them, and then if the board approved that plan, then we're all inches ahead, to get it done. But absent a plan to maintain it, that's our worry, is to continue going without having a plan to maintain it
And
post-November.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, George. And City of Fort Pierce gave us how much money towards it?
$2 million towards it.
Okay.
And yeah, and with any of the things that have a recommendation to be paused, it doesn't necessarily mean that if the referendum passes that they would definitely not be funded. It just would mean that at that point we should really be regrouping and deciding which things still move forward and which don't. It's not a definite go or no go situation. It's truly a pause. It's not a cut. It's not a contingent cut upon the vote. It's a let's regroup after we know more information.
Maybe we used the wrong color. Maybe we should use like a lighter,
A yellow?
maybe a yellow or
Yellow.
pink or something. Maybe we used the wrong
Yeah.
color. So, but yeah, it's just for pausing purposes, just because we want to make sure that, we're putting ourselves in a good position.
And as we go through these slides, you will see some of this depicted as.
Tom has something to say. I saw
Oh,
you
sorry.
raise your hand.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to also make a distinction. The road and utility infrastructure is moving forward. It is the park portion that is identified here as being on hold. So road and utility infrastructure is moving forward, and we want to see what happens in November before the rest of the project. So components of the project are definitely moving forward.
I don't want to delay the boat ramp.
And I just wanted to add that at this point, well, and actually for the last several months, what our office and administration's office has been doing is anytime anything's coming up to move forward, whether we're looking at entering into a contract or going out to bid, we are taking a look at what we're doing and asking ourselves the question of, okay, if we build this, what are the future impacts on property taxes, and is that something that we have to move forward with, or is it something that we need to be pausing? So while you see a handful of things on these slides as identified in red for that purpose, really our day-to-day operations, we are asking those questions, and we are balancing the need to move forward with the projects and the need to make sure that we're making solid financial decisions. So you see a few examples in here, but it's really part of the day-to-day operations right now.
While we're on this slide, I have a quick question. The airport commercial service readiness for $1.5 million, what exactly does that get used for?
So that helps with security enhancements. We're doing safety plans, we've been doing gates, we've been doing fencing, we've been doing a roof repair at the terminal. So all those types of items to get us ready for commercial service. And it also includes potentially some tourism money related to $100,000 towards marketing once we have that commercial service as well.
Okay. And then yesterday I had asked the Arrow West taxiway. That's the same one that we're talking about for expansion for cargo purposes? Is that
No,
right?
that was the runway. That was the length of extension for the runway. Arrow West is where we have the leases with our tenants south of that location, south of the runway. It's kind of tucked into where APP leases everything around us. And that is commitments that we have to expand the apron and the taxiway so that the tenants that we have now can actually access the property that they're building hangars on.
So the leases that we executed in there for likes of Turbine Works and a few of the other ones, they're building their hangars, and that's their way to access it. And so as we look at that, and there's some parcels yet to be leased out in and around that area. So when that's complete and all of those buildings are online, obviously the job creation and the revenue they generate and the revenue they're paying in rent back is going to, over time replace the investment we made in that taxiway. But we have to have that there for them, or we have to surrender those leases and forego that revenue because they would have no way to access the rest of the airport.
Is the money that we're going to get from those leases, how long before we're neutral for what we're spending for the?
I don't have that number before you, but we can get back with you.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else over on this slide?
On this next slide here, this is our capital improvement plan for 2027 recommended budget. These budget requests and projects are broken down by millions. So you'll see the county capital, half-cent sales tax. This is all the funds combined together. And this is page 2 of that as well. You'll see the impact fees for public buildings, stormwater MSTUs, and impact fees for libraries. So those are the percentages that are going towards the capital projects. Dedicated funding to county capital enhances our ability to fund infrastructure project investments that had no prior funding source. It also allows for us to borrow in the future if desired by the BOCC, should revenue stream maintain current levels. Provides a mechanism to address, I can't even say the word, inflationary increases caused by project deferments while accounting for potential economic, because I can't even,
Contraction.
I can't read for some reason, I can't, it's too much, due to current recessionary
Recessionary.
I think you should have took this slide, and I should. Wow, I need to go back to school. So pressures caused by inflation and volatile commodities and equity markets. Sorry about that. Okay, this next slide here is our county capital funding, and you'll see some of the items and how we have a lot of these things broken out that are tied to our strategic plan. So here's the Arrow West taxi that we were talking about, the Rock Road jail roof replacement for $1.1 million. The Sunshine Kitchen chiller plant is one of the ones that we talked about putting on hold or pausing. Regional stormwater construction is another one we talked about pausing. But these are some of the ones that we mentioned in a couple slides before this.
And I just want to point out too, the county capital fund, this is the fund that when we went into the Great Recession, we stopped putting any resources into it. It's only been in the last few years we've started to address some of those roof replacements and generator replacements and those things that we didn't have funding for. And so this coincides to the slides that George went over yesterday on the CFO and the $46 million. the examples he gave of the last 3 years of here's where we put those capital funds towards, that's what this is for the coming year. That's where those resources are going in the recommended budget.
And this is my last slide that I'm representing today. And presenting, I'm going to go check out Babbel and see if I can work on some of those big words. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the potential for future debt for the county, we do have a AA rating, bond rating with a healthy debt capacity. However, we do have some projects coming up that we may end up using bond financing. However, some of this is contingent upon what might happen with the tax initiative. So the campus and facilities master plan, over the last several years, we have been setting aside funding towards that initiative. That funding, though, would be something we would have to consider what it would look like going forward if the referendum passes. Utility expansion, those bonds are actually moving forward. For the infrastructure needed for the utility, those are intended to be paid for 100% by the utility fees, so that would not be a ad valorem impact. There are possibilities for unfunded or underfunded facilities in the future, as well as the port for Museum Point. If everything moves forward with that project, at some point, some of it would likely need to have financing. I believe within the last year, you had presentations of different financial plans on what that project could look like and different revenue sources associated with it. So if we were to issue debt related to that, the intent would be that the user fees related to that would pay back the debt. And with that, I think we're ready to turn over part of the presentation to some of the departments to get into some capital-specific discussions.
Okay, you guys can come on up, but if we could, just before we go too far, I've got you guys up there. A quick question. It was the slide that had the incremental changes for mandated budgets with the estimated CRE increase, Medicaid, property appraiser, and tax collector. You read a lot of things on social media. And there's this perception that both the property appraiser and the tax collector are completely funded through fees.
It's this slide.
Go on, 232.
232, sorry. There you go. So am I reading this correctly in terms that that's how much above and beyond their fees that comes out of our budget for them, or?
So, okay. So tax collector, so let's use, they're similar, but they're different. Both the property appraiser's budget and tax collector's budget are approved by the Department of Revenue at the state level. But their budgets are built different ways. So for the tax collector's office, it's actually fees on the collection of taxes. And so there is a state law that says that, that it's a percentage of the taxes that they collect. So if they collect taxes for us, it's a sliding scale. The first much taxes they collect is a certain percent, then it goes into the next category. And so it's not a specific number, but that percentage of taxes that they get as a fee for collection of the taxes. So the fee is, we are the fee payers. We are the ones paying those fees. It's not fees that they're collecting from somebody else, except for the tax collector. They also do driver's licenses. So they do have that part of their operation that is funded by those fees. But when we're talking about that we budget for fees, we're talking about that we're budgeting to pay for the percentage of the taxes they collect for us.
Yeah,
As
so
with every-
simply stated, like if it's if the tax collector is a 1.5%, if we're collecting in $20 million in new money, he's gonna surcharge us the 1.5% of that collection amount on top of his existing budget that's already from the overall. So if he's collecting, he's gonna charge us a percentage of our overall ad valorem collection, and that's what he keeps for his budget, and he has a statutory amount of whatever the percentage he's allowed to collect, and he sends it to Department of Revenue and property appraisers of similar sorts, just a little different, as Jennifer explained. So it's, even though we're showing this, it's not one that we could say, we're not going to pay him. I mean, he's collecting the money and he's sending us the difference, sort of thing. So that's just
Just more of an educational
Yes,
question,
yes.
because again,
of what it is.
Facebook, that message out there, it's sort of becoming this general understanding that there's a net zero to our budget, that everything is funded through those two agencies by the fees that they collect. And I just wanted to get that out there so that people.
That is not the case, and that's the interesting part of it, because there's when you see the revenue, the revenue is based on 100% of what the assessed values are, but we can only budget at 95% because you never collect the full 100, right? And so we're budgeting. This budget is built on 95% of what the estimated revenue collection is, and that's what we base it off of. On average, we may see sometimes 0.5% to 1% more than that, and if it comes in that way, that just goes to reserve, and we talk about it at the end of the year and let you know that that was the case. But off of that 95, that agency's collecting his portion as well, so that's why it's built into part of our budget as an expense coming off of our 95 that we're collecting.
Gotcha. And then the amounts that we show under the constitutionals in the budget for both, say, the property appraiser and tax collector, those are minus the fees that they give us back at the end of the year. Is that correct?
So, yes.
Yes,
So-
and we don't know we won't know
Right.
those
Yeah,
exact
so-
fees till the end of the year.
Yeah, we don't know what those are till the end of the year, but we do have a conservative estimate built in the budget. So when you look in the budget document, at the pages that detail those agencies, you'll see in the notes, it'll say that this budget has been reduced by X amount for anticipated excess fees. So with the property appraisers, her office is a little bit different. Their budget gets approved by the Department of Revenue, but it is split out as just a percentage of the budget. So we pay a portion of her budget, but it is the amount we pay is directly related to the amount that was approved in her budget. Whereas the tax collector's office, it's a percentage of the tax collectors or the taxes collected. So for the tax collector, they might have a budget, and I'm just going to throw out numbers that mean nothing. They might need nowhere close, but their budget might be $10 million, but they might collect $15 million in fees. And at the end of the year, they didn't have approval to spend $15 million. So at the end of the year, they're going to be turning that back, whatever they didn't have. Whereas the property appraiser's office, we're paying a percentage of the budget. So the chances of there being a large amount come back is much greater for the tax collector's office than it is for the property appraiser, because the tax collector's is not directly associated with the budget amount.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Klosky.
So if I'm getting this right, we have the authority to lower their budgets that they have by lowering the millage rate and lowering our budget. Because they take a percentage of our ad
Tax
valorem
collector,
and
yes. Property appraiser, I think the split is based off of assessed value. So I don't think that's the case with the property appraiser. But the tax collector, so let's take that example I gave you of the $10 million budget and the $15 million, the $15 million fees. If let's say the taxes were reduced, and now instead of paying $15 million in fees, we're paying $12 million in fees. The reduction of taxes made the amount we paid go from $15 million down to $12 million. But because their approved budget is $10 million, they still have the authority to spend the $10 million. So in that example, instead of giving us $5 million back at the end of the year in excess fees, now they're giving us $2 million back in excess fees. So it doesn't actually reduce our contribution at the end of the day. It might reduce how much we pay out, but it will also, the amount that we get back at the end of the year would be reduced as well, unless the state approves an actual budget that's lower. At the end of the day, it's the only difference is whether we're paying out at the beginning or whether we're getting it back in excess fees. If that makes sense. I know
No, it does. And I mean, I had a question about the tax collector and property appraiser as well, because although I've talked to them a bunch of times, I mean, they don't always tell you ways to lower their budget. So as far as the, dang, I forgot what I was going to say.
You're about to say, so you're only hurting us if you lower the taxes, so you've changed your mind.
Yeah,
You're not going to do that
there's that
anymore. That's exactly what I thought you were going to say.
Well, this is what I was going to say.
Put it online?
The way that they calculate, you know, from the budget, is it from the previous year's budget and taxes, or is it the current year's budget and taxes?
For the tax collector, it is the taxes as they are being collected. So
real time.
Real time as it's being collected. One other, I know it's a complex issue, and I know George would rather me make it simpler rather than more complicated, but one other side note, for the tax collector, we actually pay the fees for the collection of the school board's taxes as well. So some
nice
of that we don't have any control over.
Aren't we so nice?
Yeah.
Yeah, again, see, that's something I guess we should probably highlight on one of these slides at some point, because again, that's another part
All
of the
the
ad valorem
giveaways?
collections,
All the
because
previews?
we're having by statute, we have to pay the tax collector that fee. So you see how much the money the school board is collecting, their millage is higher than our millage, right? So you see what they're collecting, and we're having to pay that surcharge out of our budget for them.
Is that amount quantified in like the final budget book? Like in a line item? Can it be?
The school board part, I'm not sure it's quantified. We don't get we don't get anything to indicate how much that's going to be or how much it was.
We write the school board a check for that? I mean, every transfer, or how does that
No,
work?
we don't pay it to the school board. We pay it to the tax collector. So when the tax collector submits their information to our finance, the clerk's finance department, it's one big invoice that has a
So
bunch of
we pay
detail.
the tax collector on behalf of the school board?
Correct.
I see. Okay. All right, thank you.
We can find out exactly what that is and get it to you, though.
Yeah, thank you. Slide 247, under facilities and operational efficiency. Does that jail fence get replaced every 5 years? Is that what that says?
Now, I believe,
It was a 5-year plan to do
it-
the fence. It wasn't a 5-year
Okay.
recurring. So we had we had budgeted to do the fence over a period of 5 years.
Okay.
You
Yeah, I
know,
think it's
the original
sections of
thought
the
process
fence.
of doing
Just
it.
want to make sure, because I
Yeah.
was reading it like we're replacing
New
that.
fence.
That's recurring every
No,
5
no,
years. And wait
no.
a minute now.
No.
What kind of fence are we
Capital.
putting up?
To save money, we could have probably got it done in a year, but if we tore the whole fence down, we might have to chase down some folks, you know, sort of thing. So we do a section at a time.
Probably
So
wouldn't be a good
that way
look.
we didn't want to.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Clemens.
Yeah, so I do not recall what slide it's on, but 200,000 for rental assistance. Could you, like, what is that? And
242.
like, what is that? And even if we were not facing a, you know, financial cliff here, why is it that we as a county are subsidizing rentals?
So we have folks that might be working, 1 to 2 to 3 jobs, and they're paying rent at an apartment or whatever it is, and if they end up in a bad situation, they can come in and seek some partial help from us, and what that does is it helps keeping them from losing their place and ending up in their car, especially if they have a family or something, and now we're dealing with a bigger issue by having to try to provide services for folks that may have had a shortfall in something to do, and that's just something that's been a kind of a standard practice. And I think Jennifer could, if she's here, could come and enhance that conversation even more. But
I don't really need a lot more. I get what it is. I mean, I just don't think that's the appropriate role of the county. I think that would be something that I would not be in favor of keeping in the budget. We definitely would have a question for Jennifer about the $400,000 Florida Housing Finance Corporation.
And as she's coming up, that 400,000 is important because there are tax credit and federal funds that we can access, but we have to give a local contribution. If not, the entities can't qualify for the funding. And that might bring millions of dollars to our community to have that
So
local contribution.
when we say millions of dollars to our community, we're talking about millions of dollars to private entities?
Correct, but it helps us in providing workforce housing and affordable housing for our community so that there are different levels and opportunities for housing for
So
our
more
residents.
high-density housing?
It doesn't necessarily
Oh.
mean high density, but it could be.
Okay.
So that $400,000, we actually have a ground lease agreement and a interlocal with the city of Fort Pierce where that $400,000 is committed until 2029. The developer has up until December of 2029 to get financing through Florida Housing Finance Corporation. If he fails to do so, then that lease automatically terminates, but we're committed with that $400,000 until 2029.
And that's the model block project in Fort Pierce.
On 7th Street, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And then going back to your question about the $200,000 in rental assistance, that program, we are very particular who we fund with that. They have to show a documented hardship, and they also have to show that after we assist, they can sustain their payments moving forward. If they can't show those two things, they don't qualify for assistance.
So that's the only funds. That's not like matching towards something else. That's the hard cost that we pay towards people's rent.
For past due rent, if they, say they have an unexpected health situation or they lose their employment, but they are able to regain employment, they just need help catching up on that past due rent, we can help that past due rent, but it's one-time assistance. It's not something that occurs for that same person over and over again.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's definitely a policy position. I don't think it's the appropriate role of the county personally, so I'd be in favor of not doing that, whether we could afford it or not.
All right. So if everyone's good at that point, we'll have Patrick come back up and we'll let them start the different positions.
Thank you and good afternoon. Again, Commissioners and Administration. Patrick Diane, Public Works Director, joined by Chris Lestrange, the Assistant Public Works Director. And as we mentioned this morning, we're going to talk about our capital projects for fiscal year 2027. Some of the types are highlighted there. Before we get into the specific projects, wanted to touch again on how Public Works is funded and the various funding sources that we have. The first of which is gas tax. So for every gallon of fuel that's sold in St. Lucie County, there's a certain amount of local fuel tax that is collected. That fuel tax is based on the gallon that's sold. It is independent of the pricing, so it doesn't matter if the price is low, price is high. That fuel tax has continued to decline for a number of reasons. The first being that vehicles are more fuel efficient nowadays. The second being that we have a greater share. We're actually, I think, number 2 behind California for EVs and hybrids on the roadways. Those electric vehicles don't fuel up, therefore they pay no gas tax, yet they still use our roads and they contribute to the degradation of the roads. The third item is a little bit more nuanced, but our penny, which was enacted in 1987, is not indexed to inflation. Now the state fuel tax is, but the local pennies, I think there's 12 of them, Jennifer?
The local
So
option, yes.
our pennies are not indexed to inflation. That means that the penny that we collected in 1987 is worth about 1/3 of a cent today. So as inflation continues to go up, that collection continues to go down. So while we may be generating more revenue overall because there's more people here buying more fuel, the per capita contribution is dropping. The second is our infrastructure surtax. Touched on that this morning. It's a 10-year surtax, half a penny. It's generating anywhere from roughly $15 million a year, and that's been used for roads, sidewalks, and water quality projects, and been a tremendous help. We are now on this will be year 9 in the fiscal year 2027. Roadway impact fees are paid by developers. That is a restricted fund. That fund can only be used for capacity adding projects. Since 2022, we now have 5 benefit districts, so depending on where the project is located spatially in the county, the project that it is funding needs to also be near or in an adjacent zone. That way there's that dual nexus that is passed because it generally benefits that project. And the 4th fund is our Stormwater Municipal Service Taxing Unit. As Jennifer covered earlier today, this is one of those funds that as the cities annex a parcel, that parcel no longer pays into the stormwater fund for the county. It then flips over to the corresponding city's utility, the stormwater utility that both the city of Port St. Lucie or the city of Fort Pierce have. That is an ad valorem based assessment, so it would be subject to a decline should property reform pass. And the note there regarding supplementation from the general fund, every year we are finding that there is some supplementation into the conglomerate of what we call the Transportation Trust, based on the board's desires to allocate certain projects and because of the consumption of operations of the majority of gas taxes for the operations that we do on the day-to-day. So as we go through these projects, we wanted to subdivide them by category, so by project types, not so much by which fund is paying for them. I think this might be a little bit more digestible for the folks that are out there and maybe aren't as familiar with funding. So we'll start with some sidewalk projects. So for fiscal year 2027, there's a short segment of sidewalk along South Jenkins Road that would be really important to connect a school to a neighborhood on the east side of that roadway. We do have positioned some $300,000 for construction out of road impact fees. However, there is a strip of right-of-way that would be necessary to acquire in order to make that project a reality. So we're still waiting on the ownership to be completed before we can move ahead on that. These next 2 projects, Sunrise Boulevard and Easy Street, are both funded out of the TAP grants that we mentioned. That's Transportation Alternative Program grants. So that helps us leverage our local dollars with federal dollars that come in through the TPO. The first is Sunrise Boulevard. This would connect Bell Avenue to Canal 10 going north. It's up almost maybe a couple hundred yards south of the railroad tracks. And that would continue the previous investment that we did with a TAP grant on Bell Avenue. So it would continue that connectivity and that link of a sidewalk that then takes kids to Forest Grove Middle School. That's on 25th Street. Looking at a $475,000 allocation from road impact fees, and again, double that matched from the TAP grant. And then the third project is design of the first link of sidewalk along Easy Street. Chair Fowler, we touched on that this morning. This would be the first leg from US 1 to Canal 22. That is positioned for a TAP grant for construction in FY29. And then sending us up, we've just been recently approved for a fiscal year 3031 TAP grant to continue from Canal 22 over to Silver Oaks and connect to the Sun Trail and beyond. Any questions on those? Okay. Next are the bridge repair and replacement projects. As mentioned, not only do we provide for an initial investment for safety, but we promote the ability to recover funds in the future should we have an event that is creditable through Federal Highway or FEMA. We've got a whole bunch of them. We've got the replacement of the Johnston Road at C1 and 15. That is immediately south of Indrio Road where there's that S-curve in the location. And removing that would create much more safety along that corridor. It also happens to be a requirement from the Fort Pierce Farms permit that allowed us to sleeve that culvert late last year under an emergency project. Several other repair projects. We have the locations there spatially for those folks who may not be familiar with what C25 is. That's one of our northern South Florida Water Management District canals. Several repair projects, all funded from the sales tax. The McCarty Road 10 Mile Creek South replacement. There's 2 bridges on McCarty Road between Midway Road and State Road 70. Over 10 Mile Creek, this would replace the southern leg. The northern one was replaced several years ago. And then we have some repairs to Prima Vista Boulevard. Under our drainage design and construction, we've got several different projects. Starting with the Holiday Pines design, this would help to promote for a better drainage recovery out of the neighborhood that's just east of Lakewood Park. That area has been flooded a couple of times since I've been here. And based on the stormwater master plan, they identified that the outfall structure really needed to be upsized. This would promote for the design and then hopefully eventual construction of that. The Fort Capron Ditch is located in St. Lucie Village. This is a partnership project with the village of St. Lucie. Schuman Road, Rock Road, and South Header Canal Road at the various culverts are all designed. They were the original 2018 sales tax list, so we're looking at kicking off design for eventual replacement of those. These are canal culverts that we've been watching. They're on a monitoring list. We know that they are not in the best of shape, so it helps to get ahead of the curve and replace them before we have an emergency. Harmony Heights Phase 3B construction. This would be another component of the neighborhood that is off of Juanita Avenue, west of 25th Street. This continues the various subdivided parts of that neighborhood that we've been improving now for over a decade. Again, looking at sales tax using the funding source for that construction. It involves paved roads, use concrete aprons on the driveways, as well as improved swales and dry detention ponds, and really changes the look and feel of the road corridors in that neighborhood. Melville Phase 3. This right now is a project that we're doing in-house design on, and it continues the two previous phases of a neighborhood that's south of Midway Road, west of US 1. It's about 100 acres of residential, and looking at improving the roadways with swales, positive drainage, improving the driveways, and really creating a better functioning system overall for that neighborhood. And we're continuing with funding our outfall baffle box, some of which we showed you this morning, water quality projects in distinct locations where untreated stormwater flows out of neighborhoods today to the rivers or the estuaries, and placing these baffle boxes really does a great job of cleaning that water before it flows out. Looking at some traffic safety or congestion management projects. The first is the Prima Vista at Floresta Drive intersection improvement. This is really an obligated amount. We currently have an interlocal agreement with the City of Port St. Lucie. Their contractor for Floresta Drive Phase 3 will construct that intersection. The city will bill us, we will reimburse them. So that $4.5 million of sales tax obligation is required based on that interlocal. Continuing on along Prima Vista, we have the median and access management project, which really look to enhance that corridor with a center raised median, eliminating that dual left between the limits of Eroso Boulevard all the way out to US 1. It's currently under design. We will be doing much more public outreach. We had one public outreach meeting already with the residents of that community. We want them to understand and have a voice in what we do or don't do out there. Likewise, the traffic signal controller cabinet upgrades. That's a continuation of really enhancing the intersections that we have and the signals that we have. And this was a lesson learned after Hurricane Milton, where we had various locations that had no power. When the grid went dark, all of those traffic signals went dark, and that created a real safety situation. So we've been able to put uninterrupted power supplies, large capacitors, in a great number of our areas that'll run those signals for a number of hours. I want to say about 4 or 6 hours without power. And they'll normally operate red, yellow, green until such time that we can get generators out there and then get them on generator backup and then be notified actually when they come back online through the grid power. We also do camera upgrades, which allows for adaptive management and also preemption. Just helping those intersections operate as efficiently as possible. And then getting into road resurfacing. Again, we've been paying a lot of attention to our road resurfacing. We know that based on our pavement management plan, our 5-year plan requires about $5 million a year of investment into our major roads, our collectors and our arterials, to keep that pavement condition number exactly the same network-wide. So Jennifer, the link to that 5-year pavement management plan, do you think you can click on that? I don't know if I'm going to get us in trouble doing this. Won't be able to get back. So we went live with our pavement management plan on the county's website. This is available to any viewer who wants to use it in the public. Hit the OK. So anyone that wants to understand where we're paving on which year or any given road or understand what's going to be around their neighborhood can go directly to this page, or just go to the St. Lucie County website, type in pavement in the search bar, it'll take you right to this. And this is part of the transparency and the good future planning of which roads we're going to do with which kinds of strategies and when. So somebody has a really good expectation of what our plans are for resurfacing. Again, these are for our major roads. We're still working on our local paved roads right now, and that will probably be coming in the next 45, 60 days. They're finalizing the report right now, so within a couple of months we'll be able to share with you all some more really good information that helps us put together a plan for our local roads. Thank you, Jennifer. See, I knew I was going to get us in trouble.
There we go.
And then the other local road resurfacing, this is a new allocation of $1 million towards local road resurfacing out of the sales tax. Previously, we were really concentrating on the major roads, but we feel it's important to get a leg up and not let those local roads slip behind. And then out of that 5th-cent fuel tax, this is the capital maintenance that we do every year: chip seal, millings, and pavement markings. Those are interchangeable funds, so if we do more chip seal and less millings, or more millings and less chip seal, it's okay. That's not a hard number, but that's what our road and bridge department does. I do want to mention that, that $250,000 in chip seal, that gets us about 1 mile. 1 mile of chip sealed roadways. It's probably been the same allocation of $250,000 since the program began. We know we need to possibly fund that a little bit better, but it is what we're capable of doing at the time. All right, so moving on to the road widening projects. I do want to mention, before I talk about specific projects, some common themes. All the projects that we're going to show you have been listed in the Transportation Planning Organization's long-range transportation plan, either the current needs plan or a previous version of the needs plan. They're all major roadways. They are all funded by our multimodal impact fees. There's no ad valorem funds that are used for these projects. And these are all multi-year, very complex projects. They all require state or federal permitting, many of which require land acquisition, which is often the hardest part. And they only happen with your consistent support and leadership to guide them along the way. So the roads that are in the several slides that we'll show you are all in our CIP, whether they're partially funded or they may be in the cost feasible plan, which is the TPO's 25-year horizon plan. The first of these is Selvets Road widening. This is looking at connecting and enhancing that road from a 2-lane corridor to a 4-lane divided. The limits are Edwards Road to the right-hand side and looking north on that plate. And to the south, we would connect to Glades Cutoff and remove the existing intersection at Selvets and Glades. And if anybody's driven that, it is not a pleasant intersection to drive. You're right next to the railroad tracks. It is not a 90-degree turn. It's almost, if you're making a left out of there, it's very challenging because you have to look more than 90 degrees. So the elimination of that movement would really help for safety. We've been working with the Diamond R fertilizer parcel to create a parcel split. They're on board with it. They're in agreement to also provide a shared use pond, which would benefit them in the future with future development, and it would treat the roadway surface that would be improved in the new impervious area that would be necessitated by that roadway. We're requesting $5 million. That would take us to full construction funding for construction inspection, and also utility adjustments, because there's several utilities that are in easements, meaning the county must fund their relocations, both FPUA and FPL. And we're on hold in design until we achieve all of the property acquisition. As noted there, we need ponds on the north side of 10 Mile Creek and on the south side of 10 Mile Creek. South side, we think we've got it taken care of, but on the north side, we have yet to get to a point of closure with any of the landowners there. We've had lots of conversations, we've done appraisals, we've had several meetings, we've just not gotten to the point with the signed contract yet.
So, Madam Chair, one of the problems with that, this is if the board wants to see this project to fruition, we might have to have a conversation about land acquisition on the north side of that road and other means than asking somebody if they would sell, because if not, this project is going to just sit idle and then it's going to continue to grow in cost to do it. So it's something that the board's got to decide at some point at what level of priority, and then how aggressive can we get to acquire the pond site.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cosby.
I think this is a very high priority roadway. This is an area that hasn't had a lot of improvement for a number of years, and it's a dangerous roadway, very dark. That $5 million in the FY27, is that general fund dollars? Is that impact fee dollars?
It is impact fee, Commissioner Clasby.
Right, so I mean, that's just one more reason why this definitely should move forward. This is an impact fee widening project, much needed, especially with future development that is already approved out that way. I think that any of our north-south roadways need enhancement.
So I think in a period of time, we'll have to come back in front of the board to get actual official direction, but we might have to start engaging in a more aggressive land acquisition process, as you all know, and I'm trying to avoid using the initials, but we may have to venture down that path if that is the will of the board. But that'll be we'll have a separate meeting and actually engage in that conversation.
Just one quick question, then Commissioner Cosby, I'll back over to you. So the $5 million, just for clarification, that's just for the roadway work. That wouldn't include the acquisition of the right-of-way, and can you correct me, we can or cannot use impact fees for right-of-way acquisition?
Commissioner Fowler, yes, impact fees can be used for acquisition. They can be used for anything associated with roadway construction that adds for capacity. So it can be used for land acquisition, it can be used for design, it can be used for construction management. The existing budget, as we see there, is $29.5 million. That's about the cost, just raw cost of construction. We have to add on utility relocates, we have to add on CEI, and we have to add on land acquisition. So that's what that $5 million is intended to buffer against.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I know we'll come back for another vote, but I'll just, while we're on it, I will say this is, as we spoke last year, this is one of the worst roads that we have in terms of the condition. And then it looks like the realignment would take off a crossing off of FEC, off their rail line, is that correct?
So Old Selvets Road, as it crosses, would still connect, because otherwise the Selvets Road would come to a dead end at the railroad crossing. We could expect it to see significantly less traffic. Anybody coming from the north and not desiring to head down to Selvets Road or Selvets and Midway would not have to cross that railroad on the K branch there. So we feel like that is a decrease in vehicle traffic that would traverse it. However, FEC would not view that as a closure.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Glasby.
Yes, Patrick, with the impact fees that this would be feeding off of, I mean, it's for a specific zone, I assume. How much money is in that account? I mean, is there a significant amount to cover? Because there's a bridge involved with this too, is that right? So that almost $30 million includes the construction of the bridge?
That's correct, Commissioner Clasby.
And is there lighting?
I can get back to you on that. I
Okay.
don't know off the top of my head. I don't think we've gotten to that level of design yet.
And then as far as the north of the 10 Mile Creek, how many property owners are we talking about? Is there one large property? Is there multiple?
There appears to be one or two potential property owners.
Okay, all right, thank you. I definitely think that this would be a major enhancement for the quality of life for pretty much anybody that lives in that area, and that's primarily, leading to county unincorporated areas as far as I know. So I think that it would be a really good use of impact fee dollars.
Thank you. Okay, the next roadway, and this is a roadway that's been under discussion for quite some time, both here at the county and at the city of Fort Pierce. It's a mutually important roadway to both of those jurisdictions. And we've broken it up into segments on the right-hand side, and I'd like to talk about it in that format if we could. Starting with the very top, we have a PD&E study. For those folks who aren't familiar, this is a multi-year study that looks at long-range traffic projections, environmental impacts. It tests different alignments and configurations of roadways to determine which is the least impactful. It generates some pretty hard number costs as far as estimates on each one of the segmentations. So that's underway right now from Midway Road on the south, on the bottom of your screen there, all the way up to Orange Avenue. That's in concert with the Department of Transportation. We have a regional transportation regional impact program, TRIP grant, that is helping us out with that. The county did contribute $1 million towards the PD&E. And that asterisk there, DOT passed a new policy that states that anything that's not funded for construction in a PD&E program, the PD&E needs to be shelved. So we're currently evaluating that implementation and how does that apply to an off-system roadway like Jenkins being a county road, not a state road. So we're having those conversations. What DOT has told us is that they will allow us to continue with the PD&E up until the alternatives meeting, and then at that public alternatives meeting, we'll get feedback from the public. We'll have a definite alignment, and then we will have a more exact pricing on that alignment. And then from there, we can go back to DOT and determine whether or not we are going to adjust the limits of that PD&E study. So as we'll move on, we're going to work from the bottom of the page to the top. Segment 1 is Midway to Glades Road. It is not funded in the CIP. Segment 2 continues the corridor from Glades Cutoff Road up to Edwards Road and would involve a very challenging crossing over 10 Mile Creek, as well as a brand new crossing over the FEC rail. Both of those can be extraordinarily difficult to achieve. Segment 3 is from Edwards Road to State Road 70, and that is funded in our out years. It's not an FY27 request because it wouldn't be ready, but it is in the proximate years in our CIP looking at design and right-of-way, and it is in the cost feasible plan through the TPO. You see the time horizon there, 2031 to 2035. So that segment is technically funded. This is based on projections, based on revenue in the future of federal dollars that would come into our area, but it is in the cost feasible plan, meaning it's got a home. It's got a home, it just needs to wait on the timing and the revenue and the estimates that will come back at the conclusion of the PD&E study. Same with the segment 4, which takes the corridor from State Road 70 all the way up to Orange Avenue. So those two are linked together. However, there is no funding in the CIP for segment 4, so that would purely be funded through the TPO's cost feasible plan. Segment 5, which you see all at the very north in the pink, the ultimate extension of this roadway is to St. Lucie Boulevard. That's a section from Angle Road to St. Lucie Boulevard that's not funded in the CIP, and it's not in the TPO's plan, but we wanted to show that because the ultimate goal of this roadway is to be a reliever for Kings Highway, one that's on the east side of 995, and allow motorists to engage with various intersections and make their way up to the St. Lucie International Airport without using I-95. The segment that's shown is developer funded. That is an obligation of the Eagle Bend PUD.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby.
So with this Jenkins Road widening, I mean, the segments, is this simply roadway work? Is there sidewalks being added? Any other enhancements?
That's a great question. So with any of our roadway corridors that we widen from 2-lane to 4-lane, we do our best to create complete streets. And now there's various components that you can address. Do you want on-street bicycle lanes, or would you rather have a multi-use path? Those kinds of questions, those alternatives are answered through the PD&E process. They define what's called a typical section, and once you have that typical section, it'll show the width of your roadway travel lanes, it'll show whether you have on-street bike lanes, it'll show the width of your sidewalks, the locations of the sidewalks, and that's what you implement, that's what you design to, and that's what you ultimately seek to construct.
In this sort of roadway primarily funded through impact fees?
All of these projects are funded through impact fees.
And I know that a lot of this runs through the Fort Pierce area where they're experiencing development along Jenkins. I know that our impact fee interlocal agreement isn't the most favorable with collections. Could you remind me, if you know off the top of your head, what is that agreement as far as collection and what we actually receive?
Thank you, Commissioner Clasby and members of the board. We have an interlocal agreement with the city of Fort Pierce. The date of the interlocal escapes me. However, it requires that for the transportation impact fees that are collected that are within the city of Fort Pierce, 60% of those are remitted back to the city. An additional 4% is available for administrative charges associated with keeping those fees. So they keep 64%. The other 36% is remitted back to the county.
So I think that it would behoove us, we maybe should have talked about it at the last joint meeting, but, you know, Fort Pierce really needs Jenkins Road probably more than the county does. I would like to see if they'd be willing to give some of that percentage that they keep there, because I don't recall any impact fee projects that the city does.
So that has been a ongoing daily conversation with the city of Fort Pierce over the past few years, they keep waiving off their impact fees, but then keep our impact fees, and then most of the impacts are happening to roads that we would share and similar like this, but they're their impacts, and we've been asking them left, right, and sideways to renegotiate that impact fee agreement or put money from that towards these roads. So I
Right.
think as we get closer to the actual data that Patrick and his team is getting, we actually have dollars to it, we'll be coming to you all to sit with the Fort Pierce board and get them to commit to some funds for this, because if not, it would just be a failed process.
I know the District 1 and District 2 commissioners there definitely prioritize Jenkins Road being completed, and, you know, this is one of those instances where development should help pay for it that they're approving. But as far as, you know, the county putting in any sort of general fund dollars because they're taking more of the impact fees than, say, Port St. Lucie does for roads, I think that that's a conversation that we all need to have privately with our counterparts at the city for sure, to encourage them. And, you know, if they're not already aware, make them aware.
And so far, you know, we don't have a plan to allocate general fund or tax money towards this. This is a impact fee funded process. But as Patrick and team gets the information, that we'll be presenting back and then requesting those conversations to be had.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on the Jenkins Road project? Okay, I'll move ahead. So this is in the same vicinity. So now if we're envisioning that Jenkins Road is going to be a 4-lane road and Selvets Road is going to be a 4-lane road, we're going to have a 2-lane bottleneck in between those two, because Edwards Road is the only connection between the two. So thinking forward, the county is already underway with a PD&E study to look at Jenkins Road Edwards Road between Jenkins and 25th Street. However, we're going to shrink those limits down, and we're going to bring it to the eastern terminus will shift from 25th Street to Selvets Road. Again, that's based on that DOT guidance that you shouldn't do a PD&E study that is not funded for construction. The segment 2 that you're looking at there is not funded in the CIP. It is not in the cost feasible plan. So therefore, it is not projected to be constructed or funded for construction within the next 25-year horizon. DOT's guidance is don't start something you can't finish. Only start the PD&E studies that you know are going to be funded. So the link between Jenkins Road and Selvets Road, we're going to do a PD&E study. It's going to take about 18 months to complete. Ultimately, it'll determine what kind of configuration of a 4-lane roadway we're going to have, whether there will be sidewalks, on-street bike lanes, as Commissioner Clasby pointed out, or some other different variant. And the construction timing on that is 2031 to 2035 in the TPO's cost feasible plan. We do have some funding set aside in the out years using impact fees for design and right-of-way in the county CIP. Any other questions on that? Okay. We're going to shift now to the south and look at Glades Cutoff Road. Again, this is another one of these long corridors. We're looking at Range Line Road to the west and Selvets Road all the way to the east. That's a 10-mile stretch. That is a very, very long run of roadway. We have a PD&E study that's underway, and thankfully we were grandfathered ahead of that DOT guidance regarding constructible funding in the out years. So that will finish. The PD&E study will be recorded at the end of this year in a public hearing that will tell us the typical section, which the TPO already approved. And we'll also provide for some hard numbers on cost estimates for the various segments that would be required. So we're going to start on the bottom left and work our way to the top right. Segment 1 from Range Line Road to Commerce. This is the area that we expect, based on the growth of Oak Ridge Ranches and Southern Groves and Tradition, to have the most future traffic. The construction is in 2036 to 2040. We do have some out-year funding for design and right-of-way in our 5-year CIP. The next segment, you see there that it's developer funded. That is from Commerce to I-95 overpass. That is a commitment from the Wilder or LTC Ranch development that was issued by Port St. Lucie. We would then need to look at I-95 to Midway Road. We do have a small amount in our out-year CIP for design and right-of-way, and it's in the 2041 to 2050 range for cost feasible in the TPO. And then looking at the fourth segment from Midway Road up to Selvets, again, that's in that very long-term funding, 2041 to 2050 for the cost feasible plan. We do have some limits of that northernmost segment, the Turnpike overpass. The bridge that is along that would not allow for a 4-lane corridor to fit underneath it in any kind of configuration. So that bridge really needs to be replaced, so we would need to wait on the turnpikes widening before that very northernmost segment could be constructed as a 4-lane corridor under that bridge. Any questions on Glades Cutoff Road?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby?
I know the Turnpike is undergoing widening throughout its system. Is that bridge scheduled to be replaced anytime soon?
It's not in their 5-year plan, and I don't recall exactly when they thought they would be doing it, but it's not in the 5-year plan. So it's sometime out in the future. They know they have to do it, but it is not programmed yet for construction. That's the best information, most accurate information I can provide.
Okay, thanks.
If I can just chime in, if I remember right from the Glades cutoff presentation from TPO 2 or 3 months ago, I think they said roughly 2040, because I think I came back freaked out talking to George saying we can't wait until 2040 to continue like we need to move this up. So it's way out. It's way out. Patrick, quick
It's
question
funny to say,
also.
though, that 2040 you think is way out. At 2026, it's 14 years, and that stuff will fly by like nobody's business. Not that we want to wait till then, but time just seems to go really fast as of late.
You're going to make me older than I want to be.
What year is it?
Yeah. And then one other quick question. In the red part, number 1, it goes down to Rangeline Road. Oak Ridge Ranches, did they do a cost share, or don't they have a developer-funded responsibility to also widen parts of Glades, or did they just give us $14 million towards it?
Chair Fowler, nothing gets by you. Yes, it is a proportionate share
Okay.
that Oak Ridge Ranches is contributing towards
Okay.
that segment. The timing of that is 2029 is the earliest that would be made available based on the current prop share agreement that we have with Oak Ridge Ranches.
Okay.
That would not fund the entirety of that segment, so we would still need to await supplemental funding in order to have all the monies that are necessary to construct that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any questions on that part? Okay.
Okay. And this is the last roadway project. We wanted to just mention it because it is in the cost feasible plan. It is not funded in the CIP, but this is Rangeline Road. The limits that necessitate widening, we're looking from Glades Cutoff Road south all the way to the county line down by Becker Road and the C23 Canal. The very northernmost segment is an obligation of Oak Ridge Ranches, so that's from Glades Cutoff Road south to Crosstown Parkway. We've been working with that group. We have approved plans. The critical path is the FEC permit to widen that crossing across the K Branch. So as soon as that is received, we feel like we could start work on that and help that segment at least get to completion. The southern segment, again, it's not funded in the CIP. However, there is some construction in the cost feasible plan for that very, very outer band of 2041, 2050. And then just a quick highlight of the cost feasible plan that's out of the 2050 long-range transportation plan. The various segments are highlighted there, so we just wanted to make sure that we, for completion purposes, highlighted that specific sheet from the TPO's plan. And again, this is all based on estimated revenues and projections, so the only certainty that we have is year 1, 2027, and the true request from this board was the $5 million for Selvets Road for 2027. And that completes my slides, and I'm happy to take any other questions that the board may have.
Questions? Comments?
Okay.
That's a lot of money. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Matt, you're back up.
What a what a great job everybody has been doing. I joked with my team earlier that I would bring in a ladder, maybe like a 12-foot ladder, and climb up it because I felt like that was the only way I was going to be able to elevate myself over my colleagues. They've done a great job. And Matt Baum, for the record, again, Director of Facilities. Good afternoon, again, Commissioners and Madam Chair. 28 years with the county. Doesn't really mean anything, honestly, but what I can say it means is I've sat in these meetings for 23 years. Out of those 28 years, I've been a part of this budget process. I've sat and watched it from kind of a greenback as a young man coming into my career. And I can honestly say, reflecting on it, it's been kind of fun this year to kind of just watch and sort of reflect and just see how this process has, I can assure you this process has definitely improved over the years. It's gotten better. Every year it gets better and better and better. And really that's a compliment to Jennifer. I know she's been here quite a while, and so has Jennifer number 2. I don't know if it's 1 and 2 or but they've done a great job, and they really have done a great job at breaking down this information and helping to explain it, because the way I look at it is it's like a bowl of soup. When you eat it, you really don't know what the ingredients in it are, right? We talk about, we use those phrases, a bowl of soup or sausage or whatever it is, and you don't really know what's in it, but you're like, man, it's good. But there might be something in here we can get away without, right? We don't need, like when we start pulling all the ingredients out, what's really in there? When you start pulling the ingredients out of a county government budget, you realize all those unique ingredients are so critical to the overall picture. There's not really anything in there you don't necessarily need, and each thing has its special flavor, I guess you could say, right? So it's going to be a difficult year if there is decisions that have to be made and things have to be cut. I don't think we're like the federal government where you're worried about sending millions of dollars overseas, or somebody's embezzling, or somebody's stealing money, or there's a bunch of stuff getting done, being paid for that is unnecessary. When you break it down, the citizens of this county, I'm one of them. I've been here, like I said, my whole life. I've been working for the county for 28 years. I pay property taxes. And I just think that it's important to realize we do the things that nobody else wants to do. We do the things that the private sector isn't going to do. There's no money in it. And we do the things that are critical to the county because these are the things that are needed here. So I think it's important to bring that up. I don't know if it was out of line or out of place, and I apologize if it was, but I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents while I had a chance. So
We need to get to lower sodium soup up here,
Budget book should be a
Still
soup cover
nutritious.
next time.
So I really appreciate your time. I've only got a few slides. I'll be really quick, and we can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. And really, in facilities, what I've realized is it's really a 3-part process. We've got our operating budget, we've got our maintenance improvement projects, and we've got our capital improvement projects. And you got to do all 3 well, and you got to start at the first one in order to really help the other 2 cost less in the long run. And the first one's operating. So that's why this first slide is really talking about our preventative maintenance. And like I mentioned earlier when I was up, right now we're about 30% preventive maintenance, 70% reactive maintenance. And basically all the study, you can study all the studies and look at all the research. Basically, you need to kind of flip that. You need to get to a 70% preventative and a 30% reactive in order to really save some money. And that, like I show on this slide, is a cost estimated somewhere between 10 and 30% if you're effectively conducting preventative maintenance. So that's a big goal of ours. We're going to keep working on that. And I think we've improved quite a bit in the last 12 months, and I think over the next few years, I think we'll greatly improve. And next slide, please. And so the next slide really kind of represents that second piece of the puzzle that I was mentioning, and that's maintenance improvement projects. These are the things that you have to know how many buildings you have. You have to know everything that's in those buildings. You have to know all your building systems. You have to know when were they built, when were they replaced, when do they need to be replaced. And so, like I mentioned earlier as well, that was what we developed this year, which is what we'll call our CAP, or our Capital Asset Program. And that's where we went out and basically took an inventory of all of our buildings, figured out when they were built, figured out how old the equipment in them is, what's the useful life of all that equipment, and when does it need to be replaced, and put this all on paper. And we've got, oh goodness, I don't know, probably 100 spreadsheets that break all this information down to, you know, show you year after year what systems need to be replaced. So if a roof, you know, when we put it, the day we put it on, we want to make sure we're making a record that if that system is a 20-year roof or a 25-year roof or a 30-year roof, whatever it is, that we have a plan to replace it in 20 years or 25 years or 30 years, and what is that estimated cost going to be, and that will always be reflecting into perpetuity even after I'm long gone and we're all gone, and those that come behind us will be able to pick that up where we left off, see it, and know what they're dealing with, so that there's no surprises. And you know, like we were kind of talking about in one of the other, I don't know if it was in my slides or somebody else's slides, I think it was OMB's slides, where they were kind of talking about our facility master plan and our potential campus. And we all know that with the impending unknown of the referendum, we don't know, but really that is truly the only way to properly probably reduce square footage. Reducing square footage, honestly, is the only way probably to bring our costs down for facilities, or one of the main ways. And the only way we're going to reduce square footage is consolidating buildings. It's getting rid of old inventory, moving to newer inventory with newer infrastructure that's more efficient, going to last longer. So this program is really going to help us to develop those numbers for you and really explain that for you and tear that soup apart, I guess you could say, if you'd like to. And then our final slide kind of talks about, you know, these capital projects. A lot of them are on a recommended pause due to the unknown property tax impacts, but we do have a few that we're moving forward with. Obviously, the medical examiner, we were all out there for the groundbreaking. It's going to be awesome. It's desperately needed. I don't think there was any way around it, and honestly, it's probably about 5 years behind the need, but thank goodness it's getting done. The tax collector renovation to the Liberty Building down in Port St. Lucie, that continues to move forward because, quite honestly, we sold our building. We got to get out. We got to move into, you know, this new building, right? But again, that will, once that is completed, that will help us with our older building, having a newer building renovated with more space and a lot of efficiencies built into that property. We're going to be pausing the supervisor of election renovation, but again, that was kind of anticipated to be renovating the logistics building on US 1 so that it could be a future home for the supervisor of election. Right now we're paying rent to the old Orange Blossom Mall, Renaissance, whatever it's called out there, $500,000 a year, you know, roughly. And do we and are we guaranteed that price? How much is that going to go up if we don't have a place to put them? So these are expenses that if you don't pay them now, you're going to pay them eventually, right? Animal control facility, I can't speak to that, you know, because it's not my baby, but obviously it's an important need. We'll put it on pause, and we've got some backup plans if needed, and we're not able to move forward with that. But that chiller plant next is also tied to that, because that animal control facility would have went next to our Sunshine Kitchen out at that Tesserta property, and it could have been a synergy or an ability to, you know, tie both properties. Perfect timing. The Sunshine Kitchen is due in the next few years to have all their air conditioning replaced. If we were able to put in a chiller plant that could service the new animal shelter and the Sunshine Kitchen, it would have been a really great, you know, best use of dollars there. But we'll see what happens. The Port St. Lucie Library is under construction as we speak. Glad to be moving forward with that. That's needed for that area. That's a tremendously busy area, and probably one of the heaviest, one of the higher traffic buildings when it was still open before we demoed it. And finally, the transit maintenance and operation facility, which we, you know, obviously have on hold. And there are other projects on the list that didn't make the cut, or there are other, you know, maintenance improvement projects that we could really get into the weeds on. But really just wanted to give you an overview, and I really appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions or sit here all night if you'd like to.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Questions, comments? No? All right. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioners, before we get into any final questions for today in reference to the Board of County Commissioners, you know, just as a recap, and we can go back 150 slides to to show the slide if need be, but we're looking at your consideration when it comes to board only, within our purview here, not talking about any of the agencies whatsoever, just the Board of County Commissioner departments. We're looking at a flat budget, which is basically the revenue that you allocated for us in 2026, staying exactly at that number. What you've seen today was the capital dollars that were allocated in 26 here in 27 and what they went to. So those were the projects to display. But when it came to operations and personnel, obviously the annual operations and most of the departments were reduced. And the purpose of that reduction was for you to consider a potential, 4% cost of living increase to the employees, and if we have some insurance increases, considering maybe absorbing those this year, being that this may be one of the final years that we can have that flexibility, going forward and things. So we will wrap up in tomorrow's wrap up and depict it in a slide presentation, but just for tonight's purposes, that's kind of where we're at the board before we talk to any other agency and anything else, is we're looking at, we think we can operate, and maintain a level of efficiency within an existing budget. You've seen the capital projects. Obviously, you're welcome to have discussion on those, rearrange those priorities, pause, not pause, your call on all of those. But when it comes to the operation of personnel, we found ways to find reductions to be able to absorb those two things for you to consider. So if you do agree to do that, you're not taking a new tax dollar to go towards that process for the board to operate, within that. And that's one of the things that we would like you to, to consider as we wrap up into tomorrow. And then when we talk all the other agencies, if there's anything that you want to change in all those, we have that direction. And obviously, we're not deciding nothing tomorrow. We're just looking for that overall consensus, today and tomorrow on that, so we can prepare the final budget for September, for adoption. And in summary, you've seen 280 slides so far. We've probably got another, 50 to 100 for tomorrow, to kill you. And I have an enormous amount of gratitude to the entire team, all the departments, and especially the OMP team and Maite and Katie and Tom, because I could tell you that all the way up until today, I'm like, can we rearrange? Can we change this slide? Can we change that slide? Can we change this slide? So in my version of
He
slide
just
changing,
asked for a slide, just so you know.
my version of slide changing is, I'm not as hip as Commissioner Clasby is with technology, so I will draw it on a piece of paper and say, can you guys make this happen? And they're like, what is that? And I'm like, this is what I want, sort of thing. And they've exceeded expectation, again, so my hat is off to all of them up to this point as far as everything they've done, because I literally drew pictures and they figured out how to turn it into this here, and constantly had different thoughts each day. So they dealt with a lot. They dealt with a lot of stress and pressure, leading all the way up through the holiday weekend and everything. So really appreciate all their efforts. But that is what we want you to consider for this year for the board, and we're open to any questions.
Commissioner Clasby, questions, comments?
Comment. So from year one, last year, going through the budget process with everybody at the Fenn Center, to this year, I will tell you that I feel like I've learned a tremendous amount more, just from what we've discussed versus, last year there was just like a couple slides here and there. We've discussed what we're actually paying for, what we're actually proposing. And I thank you for that. Obviously, tomorrow and perhaps the day after, there's going to be some more difficult conversations about keep, cut, pause, go forwards. But as far as just getting a basis of what it is we're talking about, I think that there's a better picture that's been made here, better for all of us. We can go back and rewatch it on YouTube. We need to hear it again. But thank you for improving the process.
Questions, comments? Commissioner Lee?
Yeah, just comment sort of on same grounds as Commissioner Clasby. I think the process this year has been great. I do compliment staff on that, specifically the administrator for giving the directions on how to go, even if it was on a sheet of paper. But giving us an idea what we need to do, where we need to be, and how to do that. And I think this is pretty much going to solidify that anticipation, and it'll give us a chance to move forward on more of a positive note. We don't know what's going to happen with the taxes. The county is growing. Fort Pierce has got some huge projects coming in. The county has got some huge projects coming in. Port St. Lucie has had projects coming in, and I'm talking about tax generating revenue above and beyond the homesteaded property taxes. And I do believe that, it ain't going to happen overnight, but in the next 10 years, we're going to see a dramatic difference in the tax revenue coming in from the commercial side of things, the non-homesteaded property taxes, to hopefully make up the differences and to cut the taxes down, but it is a long ways out. So I think this process that George has brought up, I think is the best way to go, and obviously after tomorrow we'll be able to see where the other constitutional offices are going and what direction we actually need to go. But right now I'm in favor of pretty much keeping what George was saying, keeping the taxes where they are now. Let's wait 34 days and see what happens.
Yeah, I will say, one, it gets a little bit easier each year that you're here, so there's a little bit of that, but I appreciate everyone's ability to be flexible and sort of change the way that it's sort of always been done. You get used to 5 people, and then those 5 people switch up a little bit, right? And it throws a wrench in things, and everyone has landed on their feet. So I really want to thank you. Appreciate the information and just how it's kind of being put out in a little bit of a different way, a little more digestible for, it's more in layman's terms for the average person to understand and digest. Love the breakdown of, our different debts that are in here. So just all the way around, thank you everyone for working together, hearing us and making those improvements. And so it just, again, you guys get better, everyone gets better and better, and I really can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys, so thank you.
Ditto.
Ditto, right?
Yes, we say all that and more.
So tomorrow, I just will say I don't want anyone to get nervous. I'm sure we will all be asking some nerve-wracking questions, and it's not, in an attempt to cut or gut. It's just an attempt to educate ourselves so that we know what we might be facing if this goes through in November, so that we have that information to be able to really start making those rough decisions. So,
I think tomorrow we'll have, I don't foresee many of the constitutionals presenting. Obviously, the sheriff will have a thorough presentation. I don't see much from the outside agencies either, not from what we've heard, maybe a few that'll have something for a minute or two. So I think we'll be able to, if not starting right into the afternoon, go into full wrap-up conversation, or if not, or in the morning and in the afternoon, but we're pretty confident we should be able to get wrapped up by the end of the day tomorrow.
we might have to put this AC on next, huh? That's
It's just an example of,
I thought we were taking off for a minute.
Seems like we want to back up now for a second.
All right, well, we're right about that 4 o'clock mark, so do we want to go ahead, or we call it for a day, and then we'll come back and reconvene tomorrow? Does that work for
Morning at
everybody?
9.
Sounds great. Okay. Again, thank you guys. Great work today. Thanks for hanging in there, and we will see you tomorrow. Have a nice night. Thank you.